Well, welcome back to the final race of the weekend here at Oulton Park in the GB4 Championship. First time we're here, only time of the season, sadly, that we're here at Oulton Park. So this race will be the final one, but we'll make it count. Now, Alex Walker stormed to victory in the second race of the weekend. It's the fifth round of the championship. Here's all the action that went down in race 5 of the GB4 Championship earlier today.
Position with Nicholas Taylor alongside. A poor start from Taylor once again, but at least he did get going in this race. Alex Walker leading by a country mile. It was Max Maserati who got up into second position, and Tom Mills was attacking him over that second position. Elias Ardeston as well trying to find his way onto the podium. A retirement from Jessica Edgar after a stall on the start. Managed actually to get back out onto the racetrack as Tom Mills was wrestling the second position off of Maserati. Got down the inside at Oulton and managed to clear his way up into second place. Wouldn't be able to close down on Alex Walker, who was just running away with the distance. Maserati was under pressure from Nicholas Taylor as well to find his way through. Elias Ardeston in the background, and also his teammate as well. Brilliant move this was from Nicholas Taylor, trying to find his way inside, outside. Every time he found the advantage, there wasn't there. Jack Sherwood made contact with Elias Ardeston down into the Shell Oils corner, and that sent Ardeston out of the race, and Jack Sherwood down the order. Waberski would make a bit of a move, trying to go around the outside, got the inside for Knickerbrook and would move his way up into fourth position, getting past Maserati. Maserati seeming to struggle with pace. There was contact as well out of the final corner. A little bit of a touch between them, and Megan Jilkes was able to sweep past a teammate inside the top 5. Ardeston was trying to wrestle his way back up the order down the inside of Logan Hannah, as Hannah would go for a bit of a spin in the background and she would stall the car. I think she'd be able to get back going again. It was dominant though from the Elite Motorsports driver of Alex Walker in fine form. Race victory on Saturday, race victory on Monday morning as well. The battle for the fourth position though was pretty tight. Jared Waberski would just lead over Megan Jilkes. The podium ahead of them would of course be Tom Mills and Nicholas Taylor.
So a very exciting race earlier, a big battle for fourth position, which, you're not always watching the people out the front, and with Alex Walker being in such great form this weekend at Oulton Park, it really is not worth almost watching him go round, because he was never really challenged in that second race like in the first. Now, you might have heard Piers Pryor on commentary alongside Lewis McGlade. Now, if people are only just meeting you, I know that obviously you just, you did the commentary and you joined in there, and we didn't really get to introduce you properly on camera. What's your experience so far? You've used to drive in the F3 Championship.
Yes, I was lucky enough to race in what is now the GB3 Championship in 2020. I got my single win here at Oulton Park at the first round. Obviously, that was the COVID-affected year, so it wasn't April, it was August. But I raced all that year. It was really good to be a part of the championship. Really enjoyed it, and also gives me a bit of an insight in the comms box to the racers' view of things. I'm hoping to get back on track at some point, but for now, commentary is what I'm up to.
And you're very good at it as well. We talked about the track just there, and we'll get onto that a bit more in a minute. But first of all, what have you made of this GB4 Championship, the new sort of more affordable entry level that they've come up with at MSV, and it's sort of the brainchild of Jonathan Palmer for drivers who may have not even been driving this season to suddenly have a chance at a lower cost?
I think it's brilliant to be able to get on such a big package like the British GT and the GB3 and the GB4 all together. It works really, really well. The cars are quick for a single-seater, but there's not too much to it. They're fairly simple, not too much aero, so it's an entry-level Slicks and Wings Championship that really gives the drivers an opportunity to get around the tracks, the main tracks in the UK. The racing has been really close so far. I've really enjoyed watching it, and also the drivers it's a great stepping stone up the ladder, and a great start maybe out of karting, or even if you haven't done karting, just into car racing regardless.
Now, one of the drivers that only sort of joined the championship at the last minute that we've spoken to previously is Max Maserati. Now, I believe he's the only actual driver in this championship that you've raced against. Now, we've seen Max, he's a very big character, he's a very aggressive driver. What do you make of him? Have you had any scrapes with him over the years?
I'm sure we had scrapes during my 2020 year, but it's great to see Max back on the grid. It's really impressive to see what he's done, because he's one of the drivers that doesn't come from a massive financial background. He's a fairly normal family, fairly normal guy, and he works really hard to get himself on the grid. So it's got a lot of respect for what he does, and also he races hard on the track. I think this GB4 has been exactly what he's needed. I think he's at times, in GB3 a couple of years ago, he was definitely one of the sort of learning and finding his feet, so somewhere towards the back of the grid. But now seeing him up at the front and consistently fighting for podiums is awesome to see. And that first GB4 race that we showed earlier on, amazing race with his teammate Megan Jilkes and also Jared Waberski. It was great to see.
He did struggle for pace. He was a little bit unhappy after that race there, not finishing where he wanted to. Now, we've mentioned Oulton Park here. A lot of the drivers are saying it's not their favourite track. They're saying that it's a little bit tricky to overtake. Now, as someone that's won here, Do you sort of mirror their thoughts?
Completely. Oulton Park, it's an amazing circuit. It really is amazing to drive. It feels really fun. It's undulations, there's bumps, there's corners, different crests, and it's a really rewarding circuit to drive, but also it's very unforgiving. As you've seen even in the other races, the barriers are very close, there's not much runoff, but it is difficult to overtake. GB4's not so much because they haven't got as much aero, so they can follow up closer, but in GB3 it's very difficult to actually force a manoeuvre because the straights aren't so long, so you haven't got the slipstreams, but you lose that little bit of front grip that you need to stay close in the higher speed corners. So it is harder, but you have to just approach your racing slightly differently. So maybe at other circuits where you might be able to force a manoeuvre, dive down the inside. Here it's more about keeping the pressure on the driver in front, trying to force them into a mistake. But if you drive consistently and hit your marks, then it's very difficult for drivers to pass. My only race win in British Formula 3 was here from pole, and I managed to keep off Kush Miney, but basically by not making a mistake. He did have a bit of a pace advantage over me in that race, but I managed to get the laps in, didn't make any mistakes, and that proves that, you know, if you're consistent and you can drive well and put the laps in round here and don't make any mistakes, it is possible to defend your position quite effectively.
Now, perhaps the most consistent driver we've seen so far this weekend in GB4 is Alex Walker in the Elite Motorsports car. Now, I mean, what have you made of him so far? I mean, he's absolutely winning by huge margins.
Amazing. To see him win by, was it nearly 9 or 10 seconds in the first race and 6 or 7 or 8 seconds in that second race. He's obviously got that Elite Motorsport car really dialed in around this circuit. He's got a bit more experience than some of the other drivers on the grid with different championships that he's raced in. I think he's did Formula Ford 1600, and he's also raced in all the circuits, done a fair bit of testing, but he's put in that experience and practice to good use. I mean, he's really got those starts nailed. I think that's so important. Again, we mentioned that in the comms box, but getting the start sorted around here, especially with the troubles they've been having in GB4, the drivers getting the cars off the line, he's nailed that and he pulls away and it makes it an easy race for him, and he's building a quite healthy championship lead early on. Again, only about 5 races into the season out of the 25, but still a really good place to be. We've seen some really good pace as well from Nicholas Taylor as well. He's been right up there with the pace-wise, but just struggling a bit in the first couple of laps to keep his position or fight Alex, but once he gets that in, I'm sure it'll be a really good fight between those two. And then we've seen some great pace from the other drivers as well, so it's a really competitive championship, and also all the way down the grid. We saw in race 1 today and on Monday morning there was some racing from the podium, but also all the way down to the lower top 10 places, which is great to see. So there's fighting no matter where you are on the grid.
Absolutely. Well, there we go. Piers Pryor, who you will hear on co-commentary here alongside our main commentator Lewis McGlade. Now, this is a brand new championship, as we say. If you didn't catch any of the racing we've just been talking about there, here's a little explainer as to the basics of the GB4 Championship.
A brand new entry-level series for aspiring drivers on the pathway to Formula 1. Acting as a direct feeder series to higher open wheel categories, running in close alignment with its sister championship GB3. The car that will drive is the Tartus F4T014 chassis used in the ADAC Italian and Spanish Formula 4 Championship 2021 FIA specification, running on the same spec Pirelli tyres and Sunoco fuel as GB3. The calendar will see us visiting Snetterton, Silverstone and Donington Park twice, as well as visits to Oulton Park and Brands Hatch, running alongside GB3 for each of those weekends, aside from the series opener. Each of our 8 events will see 3 races, totalling in 24 across the season, and the first 2 races of each event will be set by a 15-minute qualifying session in which each driver's fastest lap will decide their position in race 1 and their second fastest lap establishing their positions for race 2. The third race will be a full grid reversal with extra points awarded for positions gained as well as the driver's finishing position. Our GB4 champion at the end of the season will receive £50,000 in cash prize towards their next single-seater campaign in the following season, as well as the George Russell Pole Position Cup, which will award £125 and a trophy for each pole position secured in qualifying, and a £1,000 prize at the end of the season. Well, a sunny day coming to a close for the GB4 Championship as it's on its way out. Thanks to John Jackson as well, giving a presentation throughout the running of the GB4 Championship so far. I'd love to catch up with him post-race when we head down to Park Valley of what is going to be a crazy third race here of the weekend for GB4. I'm Lewis McGlade, Piers Pryor alongside. This is going to be fun.
We love a reverse grid race, don't we? Honestly, it's a great format. I love the format of the GB3 and GB4 Championships. The GB4 Championship, obviously, full reverse grid of all the drivers. drivers within 103% of the pole time. So that's most of the field, which shows how close it is. We've got a great grid up here. We were just chatting while we were off air about how we think this is going to go. What do you think?
I'm not sure which one I'm going for. So we've got obviously the decider as to who's going to win this race. I am feeling Waberski. Didn't have a great qualifying session, but I think is going to make the most of this third race, starting from third position alongside his teammate. It's
great to see an all-female front row. I'm loving this championship with the amount of female drivers we've got. 4 on the grid, I believe it is, isn't it?
Yes.
4 female drivers on the grid, which is great to see. We hope that even in the years coming forward, we'll have even more than that, because we love seeing the diversity among motorsport as much as possible. You think that your money's on Jared Waberski? I think, having seen some of Tom Mills's first lap so far at Snetterton, he's been really dialing those in and making a lot of places. I'd love to see Logan Hanna or Jessica Edgar take the win, but unfortunately I think pace-wise they're not going to be able to quite hold on.
No, well, we'll see them roll around, and then we'll actually take a look at the grid that we have here for the third race of the weekend, the 6th round of the GB4 Championship. Like you say, it was an all-female front row in the third race, of course, back in Snetterton. It was Jessica Edgar that was on pole position alongside Megan Jilkes, who ended up taking victory that day. Tom Mills, stationary on the grid. He had a stall on Saturday. We'll see if he can actually roll around. I don't know if he's got moving. Either way, the grid will focus on what we have on our screen. Logan Hanna on pole position for the GBR team, with Jessica Edgar alongside in the front row. Jared Waberski starts potentially alongside Tom Mills for the Kevin Mills Racing Squad, locking out that second row. Behind that, Elias Ardestam and Jack Sherwood with Maserati. You can see there at the bottom of your screen, Tom Mills is being moved off. We'll go to that in a moment. Megan Jilkes, 8th spot after a fantastic weekend. Her pace has been brilliant throughout. Then the fantastic row. We know how fast these two are. Taylor and Walker. We'll see if Taylor can get off to a good start. And then the 2 GBR cars starting from 11th and 12th of Line and Chloe Grant. That is a tragic moment for Tom Mills.
I believe I owe Tom Mills a drink or a pat on the back, because I feel I've gone in the full commentator's curse there, saying he's going to have a great first lap. Unfortunately stalled on the grid. We've seen that the drivers, again, these drivers are very young. This is some of these 15, 16, 17 years old, never driven a car on the road. So that, that clutch control is something they need to learn, and they are learning that throughout the season. Some of them struggling more than others. You can see Alex Walker, he's done a season or 2 in cars already, and that experience of just having those race starts is really paying dividends, because every single race he's jumping forward. We can now see Tom Mills, really sad to see him starting in the pit lane, which is a real shame. Although it will be interesting, because he's had really good pace, he's been good at racing, to see how far he can come forward in this race even from the pit lane, because he's had great pace.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure as to how far up the order he can go from the pit lane, but still, he's going to get out there in the race. I will say, when it comes to clutch control, obviously, typically to a driver or such, we're used to feeling it in your foot and stuff. You got to do this on a hand, right? It's not easy.
No, it is foot.
It is foot.
Yeah, they are foot clutches. So you have 3 pedals. So your brake, it's much like a normal road car. So you've got accelerate on the right,
right then.
Brake in the middle, which most drivers will use their left foot, I would imagine, in these cars. I think some drivers might choose to use their right, but it's quite difficult. The steering column, actually, interestingly, goes directly above your brake foot. So if you've got big feet, sometimes it can have a bit of an issue.
Is that an issue for you?
I have very small feet, so it's okay.
So it's
yeah, so it's all good there. But yeah, it's definitely a clutch start. But that's why I mentioned earlier on, if you're on that hill, if you're in the GB3 race and there's more drivers, you're on that hill up towards Deers Leap. Or the same we'll have at Brands GP as well. Only 3rd place is flat at Brands GP, and the other drivers will have to make sure that either put the clutch down really late so you don't roll, or you have to have part of your foot on the brake at the same time, which is honestly so hard to do when you're trying to match the revs, trying to get the brake on, you'll find the clutch biting point without trying to roll, because obviously rolling forward will result, or running forward too far or too fast will result in a penalty.
Yeah, it's so difficult to do, especially on a lot of the circuits we go to. It's not exactly, we don't have many flat grids here. Definitely not. It's not. Various positions are at different angles completely. Like, there is none that are really perfectly flat.
Look at that right there. We're going steep downhill towards out the last corner. And we haven't got quite that many cars in the grid, but then the cars at the back of the grid in the GB3 race will be on this hill. Luckily, with a slightly smaller grid, it's mostly flat, but even now you can see as the track on the left-hand side, see that white line dips down towards about the second row, and then the first 2 rows are slightly uphill. Again, the advantage is still to be on the front row, because you'd rather have that track position, but obviously you have to take that into account with your racing start.
Yeah, it's seriously not easy to get a car going on this. Obviously, the blank space that is in that 4th position where Tom Mills would have originally lined up. The drivers head into their positions. 18 minutes onto the clock, and round number 6 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, will get itself underway. It's Logan Hannah on pole position, and she has got a decent launch. It's a little bit of a slow one, though, from Jessica Edgar, but she has managed to find the second part of that. And look at Jared Waberski, straight down the inside. The number 20 with the yellow helmet, trying to grab over the race lead. They're all a little bit slow, and it's one of the hill speeds in that 4th position, trying to go on the attack. It is, of course, Max Maserati, who's so good at the race starts around the outside of Jessica Edgar. Logan Hannah's a little bit too deep, going down into Cascades, and it is a big lead from Jared Waberski as we head down into the island bend. Elias Ardestom's taking a look as we'll go side by side through the corner. This is madness. Elite Motorsports going around the outside. Megan Jilkes potentially dropping a little bit backwards as there is a door open. Logan Hannah is on a one-way trip down towards the back of the field. A crazy first lap and a bit of a snap there from Jack Sherwood.
Oh my God, is it Indy Lights? Is it round and oval? It's 2x2x2. It's still side by side. We go through the Britain's chicane. The Elite Motorsport car, I think that's Megan Jilkes alongside Jack Sherwood, and then there's Nicholas Taylor trying to make up another position. I was actually keeping an eye on Alex Walker, who's already up to 5th place.
Oh, bit of a lock up there from Maserati. Mike just going a little bit too deep, still trying to get past Jessica Edgar. He's got a Fortec ahead, a Fortec behind. Elias Ardestom sat on the rear end. I don't know if you were watching that start. Did Nicholas Taylor have not a great start again?
No,
Nicholas didn't seem to move too much.
Nicholas Taylor's start was absolutely fine. The jumper was, again, Alex Walker jumped about 2 rows, cut straight ahead of Nicholas Taylor. I was watching the back of the field while you were keeping an eye on the front. And Nicholas Taylor gained about 3 or 4 positions by turn 1, and then currently fighting for 5th position, I believe. Or is it fighting for 4th in 5th position? That's it. He's trying to make a move on that. Who is that head? That number 8. That must be
Elias Ardestom.
Elias Ardestom for the Fortec team. Yes, he's trying to go the inside. He's looking at the outside. What great racing. Again, 2x2x2 for the first start of the race.
I cannot believe how good that start is from Alex Walker, already trying to grab 4th position. It is a tricky circuit to overtake, but can he get a clean sweep on the weekend for Elite Motorsports? That would be a superb start to his 2022 season. There's the battle, though. Jack Sherwood going around the outside in the black and yellow Elite Motorsports car, still side by side with the Graham Brunton racing car of Logan Hannah, who started from pole position. But watch out for the run from, of course, the number 66 of Nicholas Taylor. They're going to go 3 wide coming down to the island bend. Logan Hannah backs out of it. Nicholas Taylor gets other positions, and Megan Jilkes straight off the track in the background. She's going to slide her way through somehow, thankfully not making contact with any of the barriers. That was crazy. 3 wide. 3
wide into the island hairpin, completely flat out. 120 miles an hour in these cars. What? That was heart in mouth stuff, and I think that the car on the inside, car in the middle there, did well to back out, because that could have been a nasty accident. Did you actually notice that there was the car on the outside? Jack Sherwood had 2 wheels basically on the grass and managed to hold it together, which is very close there. We will get a watch. I'll let you talk through this.
I cannot believe what we are seeing here at the GB4 Championship. 3 wide, Nicholas Taylor to the inside, Logan Hannah in the middle, and there is exactly what you're saying. He was close to going off, and Megan Jilkes, that's such an easy mistake. Too many eyes on the road ahead, maybe?
Oh, that is, the thing is, there's a lot going on ahead. It's easy to, you misjudge that turning point. She just, I think, and maybe a bit of that dirty air on the front wing, and just misjudged her turning point with those 3 cars going side by side. Very easily done, but I was impressed. Jack Sherwood just kept it on the road there. 3 wide going through there. What a great move. Again, Nicholas Taylor showing that he's got that racecraft that maybe he didn't quite show us at the first round at Snetterton, that he's actually gone 2 places in 1 corner there. Jared Waberski, he's got 1.8 seconds clear, taking a leaf out of Alex Walker's book here, checking out, although Walker could be on for a podium here. He's at great pace and has been looking very racy, currently in 5th position, trying to close down that 4th place to Elias Ardestom.
Going to say, by the way, speaking of positives, by the way, for the Kevin Mills Racing Squad, despite starting from the pit lane a little bit too much of that curb and bottoming out from Elias Ardestom, Tom Mills already up into 9th position from the pit lane. I know there's been issues with Megan Jilkes and that lot, but still, that is a good start.
Yeah, he's got good pace, we know that, obviously finishing on the podium in the previous race, but Alex Walker there, again, Elias Ardestom slightly wide. Nicholas Taylor right on the back of Alex Walker now, so those 2 are grinding their way through the field and cutting through. They're found they're a little bit bottled up now for the sort of the top 5 positions, but I reckon there'll be more movement before the end of the race. Still 13 minutes to go.
Such a racing driver thing. See them on the entry to Britain's, pulling it all the way over to the right-hand side. Now, I will say there was a crash in Friday testing in the GTs there, quite a large one from coming over too far over to the right-hand side. But you've got to use so much of the track, right? You can't afford to leave that.
That is your job as a racing driver, is to give yourself as much racetrack as possible to extract the lap time, but obviously take one step too far, you touch that grass, then the grip difference in the tarmac and the grass, if you're on the brakes especially, will flip the car sideways almost instantly. As we can see, Alex Walker getting a really good run on now. I will be surprised if he doesn't manage to make a move here, although he has to be careful because Nicholas Taylor's right behind him. Is he going to get around the outside? No, not this time. Maybe try for the cutback.
Yeah, backing out of it. Obviously still, they've got to think of the championship. You were saying this in GB3, they have to think of the long game in the championship. Despite it, we're still only 6 races into it, you still have to play the long game. And now he does have to worry about Nicholas Taylor, who's having a bit of a confidence building race as he's finding his form once again. Started out strong, got himself onto the podium a bit earlier on in the day, but really does need to find that pace that he had at Snetterton.
I haven't spoken to Alex Walker, but he can afford, in theory, to be a little bit more conservative. Very good, right underneath the rear wheel of that. That'll actually hurt his exit now, and he'll be under pressure for Nick Taylor. But I was just about to say before he ran into the back of Elias Ardeston was that Alex Walker could, on the outside, he could, in theory, pretend to be actually be slightly more conservative, as he has an almost 45-point gap in the championship already to second place Max Maserati, with the next group of about 5 drivers all within about 8 points.
Yeah, like I say, you can afford to just roll off of it a little bit, to play again the long game, to maybe not risk it too much in the positions, but that's not what we want. We want the entertainment, as Elias Ardeston in the yellow highlighted number 8 Fortec machine behind Max Maserati, who was struggling for pace a little bit in the second race a little bit earlier on in the day. Elias Ardeston, the Swede, looks to the inside, nearly made that one down into his lots, but again, every opportunity that he goes for is going to open him up surely to the car behind.
Nose to tail stuff here. You can see all 5 cars right up each other's gearboxes. Very, very close. Alex Walker's the closest he's looked. Is he going to go up the inside of Druids? That's a tough move to do into there.
I mean, it's not that much of a braking zone. You can't really give that one a go. Might open him up, though. Again, trying to get him offline. Give a good opportunity down into Lodge. To the outside of Lodge corner. Again, Nicholas Taylor defending a little bit, though, from Jack Sherwood. The 41 trying to get around the outside of Elias Ardeston. It is Fortec in the white and red versus the black and yellow of Elite Motorsports. 2 by 2 they come. Oh, nearly pushed out into the wall. Alex Walker's trying to go free. He's got to watch out for Nicholas Taylor, though, who's got Jack Sherwood down the inside. This is crazy scenes. All the battle for 4th position, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. I am loving GB4 right now.
What a race this is turning out to be. Side by side, I thought Alex Walker was cutting left and going to take out the nose of Nicholas Taylor right there for a second, but they just managed to miss. Again, they're doing very well to follow so closely without causing any damage to their front wings. It's actually very difficult to get a judge of where your front wing is, and it takes a bit of experience, really, because it's so far out in front of you and so low that it's really hard to judge where it is, and making sure that you don't damage that, because even with only the single element front wings they have here in GB4, it will definitely make a difference to lap time, especially if you're right up behind the car in front, because you'll end up having so much oversteer. It'll kill the tyres and potentially also cause you obviously to lose lap time and then be vulnerable to the cars behind.
Now, this is also basically the battle for 3rd position, as well as Jack Sherwood takes a little bit of a look. You've got Maserati there, then Elias Ardeston, then Walker, then, of course, Taylor, then Sherwood. And look at that, in the background from the pit lane, the Kevin Mills Racing Co., who set the fastest lap on the previous lap with a 36.945. It was almost a second faster than everyone else in this group, nearly 2 seconds faster than this group. He is closing in. Could he get a podium in this race?
It is plausible that Tom Mills could get a podium from the pit lane of this race, which would be an amazing feat. He's shown that he's got some good racecraft. If he gets on the back of the Sherwood car, then that could be interesting to see if he can make his way through, especially if a few of these cars tangle, which, they're racing so closely. Again, I'm not saying that it's inevitable, but there's obviously, every time you go side by side, there's a risk. And you can see Vaversky is now pulling away. He's got some great pace. Only a 10th or so off the fastest lap of the race, that last one.
Yeah, Jessica Edgar, who, by the way, her positions so far in the season have been... she's had top 10s in 4 races, 2 9ths, 2 10ths, and then finished 12th a lap down in the previous race after stalling on the grid. As going for the move, Alex Walker's very close. The black and yellow car from Elite Motorsports trying to battle it with the white and red of Elias Ardeston to the outside, potentially of Island Bend, but you're just not far enough alongside to go and commit for that one. So he does back out. He looks back to the inside, nearly over. Cooks it, does Elias Ardeston on the rear end of Maserati. That would have been an easy one, and we've seen that one before.
Yeah, we've seen that earlier on GB4 today. It's easily done to lock up and then take... We're going defensive now, Elias Ardeston into Britain's chicane. It's going very close up down to his lots and then Knickerbrook. Looks like they're right in each other's slipstream here, trying to make use of that.
Yeah, just seen by the way, Megan Jilkes has set the fastest lap of the race in 12th position, so she still keeps going in this race as Ardeston defends. Walker not able to get past. Black and yellow for Walker, the white and red as well in the background with the white wing mirrors. The number 66, that one is Nicholas Taylor, who's got to worry about Walker's teammate Jack Sherwood in the 78, greatest number in all of motorsport and sim racing. That's my number. No bias at all whatsoever. And Tom Mills, his sort of closing down on this group has started to slow down a little bit as we've got 8 minutes and 20 seconds left of the race. It's about 6 laps left in this one. So, Walker.
He's trying to get in the mirrors, as I mentioned beforehand. You know, you're trying to get in the mirrors of the car in front and trying to make a mistake. So far, he's doing very well. Elias Ardeston is doing very well to keep this position, and it's all being backed up because of Maserati at the front. It just doesn't quite have the pace to pull away from this group, even though they're fighting. And we actually saw into the Hislop chicane. The trouble with being in a group like this is that who is it? Ardeston went defensive, and Walker couldn't then go really wide to then give the big cutback because he had to defend himself.
Walker! Oh my goodness, how did he keep that one in check? That was madness.
I just missed that one. If we can get a replay, that would be great. But now Taylor's trying around the outside again. This could be close. He's going to have to defend, otherwise Taylor might throw out the inside.
Now, there is a little bit of dirt. You can kind of see the debris that's been flicked up, obviously, from when Megan Jilkes went off down to Oulton. How much does that kind of affect? Surely you can't really go near it, or is it not really too bad?
Yeah, you won't really want to go over that dirt, especially there, because the car's so loaded, as we've mentioned before. But these tyres actually do pick up the dirt quite aggressively. You go 2 wheels on the grass, you'll be able to feel that for 2 or 3 corners afterwards. It could leave you vulnerable. But you can see now the difference. As soon as you make a mistake, or as soon as there's a little bit of you've had to defend, you lose so much time with Alex Walker having had the pace of the weekend so far, now dropping off the back of Ardeston because of the having to defend from Nicholas Taylor. Here's the replay of Alex Walker on the exit. So he's gone in very hot there. Both the elite cars going wide. Whoa, that would have been nervous times. You know, right over. As soon as your car bottoms out on that curb, you've got no grip because all the weight comes off the tyres.
Oh, Tom Mills as well in the background coming
pushing
out of
on
Druids. Chloe Grant as well off. That's going down into Hislops, where her teammate spun in the previous race of the day as well. We're seeing drivers make a couple of mistakes. They're pushing hard. Alex Walker's the one driver that we've said it a few times. He doesn't need to push this hard. That's critical.
Already, again, as we mentioned, already with a decent lead in the championship, thanks to the way that the races have fallen and the 2 dominant victories he's had. Let's have a look at this replay into Hislops. I'll let you talk through this.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's Megan Jilkes who's got down the inside, of course, in the hill speed, but it's just, I think that's just overcooking it a little bit.
There might have been a small touch. It'd be interesting to get another angle of that. Yeah, might have been a small touch. We'll obviously hear about that maybe after the race.
Yeah, I think worth listening in between Chloe Grant then and Megan Jilkes, of course. Megan Jilkes having won a race in this championship. Chloe Grant, who's struggled to get to speed a little bit in Graham Brunton racing machine, been actually the slowest of the 3 this weekend, but finding her feet bit by bit in this level of racing.
Yep, obviously it's a new series to both of those drivers. They haven't done a huge amount of racing, but then we've got in the lead of the race right here, we've got the Kevin Mills racing car of Jared Verbersky doing excellently.
Yeah, he's just well in control right now. I've got to say, we haven't really spoken about her too much, but Jessica Edgar is doing a brilliant job in that 2nd position, just holding the pace of this group behind whilst they're all battling like mad. Is able to hang on. I also wonder if we're not going to go for that 12th lap, because obviously in the previous couple of races, courtesy of the pace of Alex Walker, who completely dominated, we got an extra lap. It was quite tight on the time. I wonder if we'll get one in this, or whether we're going for just 4 more. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see, but also a very good point. Yeah, Jess Edgar doing excellently so far in this race, holding on 2nd place, pulling away from the group in 3rd. So she's obviously found some pace, a bit of confidence. It's a shame that she didn't get to show us the pace she had in that first race after the DNF at the start.
It's just how it goes sometimes in this style. You know, you can't make the most of every single round. Of course, we're saying that you need to 24 races, but sometimes races get away from you. That's just how it is, isn't it?
Exactly. No, great to see her be able to show this pace, and I'm sure that the confidence she'll get if she manages to finish this podium off will be great, and then spare her on for the rest of the year.
Yeah, like I say, regardless of the races that have gone awry, you've always got to focus on the race that is at hand. And with 4 minutes and 20 seconds, the only person I do feel in this scenario right now that can lose that 2nd position for Jessica Edgar is Jessica Edgar herself. I don't feel that gap is going to close down enough. Really, really deep there from Maserati, though. He does hook up that apex a bit late, gives him a good drive towards the Britain chicane. But you kind of get the feeling the pressure is Maserati. He's not looking as fast as he did on the Saturday race. He struggled in the early race this afternoon. and clearly struggling in this one as well.
It looks like he's just lacking a little bit of pace at this stage of the race. Maybe his tyres going off, maybe he's just overheated them at the start of the race, but this group is definitely closing up from the front, isn't it? So Maserati maybe making a couple of small errors, backing himself into Elias Ardestam, and then obviously Walker and Taylor trying to take advantage of that as wherever they can.
And yeah, you need to pounce on any opportunity. I mean, especially around a circuit where it's so difficult. And I get the feeling that the real opportunity there was coming from Alex Walker, who's just dropping back into Nicholas Taylor, running down into Druids. Like I say, it's a really tricky corner to go for an overtake. If you're fully alongside, you can make it stick as far as I've seen from the outside, inside. But you have to get alongside first, which you only get there by a mistake out of Knickerbrook.
Exactly, that's it. You're trying to force your competitors into a mistake so they have a poor exit, so then you can get alongside them for a move into there. Because if you throw it up the inside there, you know, from behind, you don't have an overlap. You're literally putting your hands in the face of the car in front that they've seen you and that they know you're coming. And it's a very high-risk manoeuvre, not only for finishing the race, but also it's a fast corner with not much runoff there. You don't want to be risking having damage now. You know, a big shunt there would put you out of the final. You know, it could, you know, firstly costly, but also mean that, you know, you might not be able to race in going forward.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I think that's the kind of level of risk that you really do have to think about, particularly in the second race, the first race of the day, the second race of the weekend, where you do have to think about that race later on. You can't take any really extreme risk, because if you do get a lot of damage, you might be out of the race for the rest of the weekend. A little bit deep again from Elias Ardestam this time, and Alex Walker in that black and yellow Elite Motorsports car was looking down his inside. I don't call this a Fortec sandwich, because I think that's terrible. You don't call it a white bread sandwich, do you? It's a Fortec. It's Fortec bread with an Elite Motorsport sandwich right in the middle, with a little bit of addition as well from Hill Speed at the front, and one of the Kevin Mills Racing cars at the back. The 81 still holds on to the third spot. Elias Ardestam does get alongside though, coming down to his laps. And look at Nicholas Taylor. Taylor might well find this opportunity, and Jack Sherwood. Somehow they all had a little bit of side by side there, and they all stay in the same position.
How have they managed to all come out of that? I thought there was certain to be contact with one driver not, but they've obviously got very good awareness of who's going where. Again, here we go, Ardestam going defensive. This will allow Alex Walker to get hopefully a run on Ardestam into the final corner, but Taylor's got an even better run as well. We could be finding out 3 wide. Here we are, 3 wide into the last corner. Nicholas Taylor trying to run the outside. Can he get? Oh, this would be an amazing move. He can make this. Round 2 of them run the outside.
I think. He's got a little bit of oversteer on the exit though. Coming up over dearly. Jack Sherwood. This is going to be crazy. We are 3 wide across the line to start what I do believe might be the final lap of the race. We'll have to see where Weberski is. But Alex Walker on the inside. Nicholas Taylor straight around the outside of Old Hall. And here comes Jack Sherwood, the teammate of Alex Walker. Be careful here, lads. We've seen contact between the teammates in GB3. We don't want to see it in GB4. The 78 down the inside. Alex Walker backs out of it, and Tom Mills is now part of the battle.
I must say, this is excellent racing. The racing that these guys are doing is they're making hard moves, but also not making any contact unnecessarily. And Alex Walker goes to the inside into the. That is very close for that corner. And then we've got Tom Mills trying to go around the outside of Alex Walker now. Yeah. What a race. These guys, a reminder, these are all 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and they have moved out of karting or not done a huge amount of car racing, and they're racing this close without contact, with being aware of where the cars are, going around the outside, leaving each other room. This is excellent, excellent racing, and a great advert for the GB4 Championship.
I think we both winced a bit there when Alex Walker was looking down the inside. I don't know how they got away with that one. Tom Mills still not able to find his way past, but I will say, it's Jack Sherwood straight on down at his lops. He goes through the chicane on the exit, but yeah, he's surely going to lose out. I think he might have actually stayed ahead. We'll go back to that in a moment, because we need to see if Weberski, if this is going to be the final lap of the race, or if this is going to be close. We were saying this is going to be pretty tight on time. We know that Alex Walker obviously managed to get the extra lap with 10 seconds from here. I do agree with you. I think we might get one more, but it's going to come down to the final couple of seconds. Weberski across the line to start the final lap of the race by 1 second.
That's
good
great.
effort.
I am actually quite enjoying. We've got one more lap of this race to go, so I'm hoping that we can have another entertaining lap to finish off. Jared Weberski, excellent drive, got away at the start, shows how much value that getting that good start and getting away early does. Jessica Edgar had a great start again, second place, and then it's just been absolute chaos for the rest of the race, but really good racing chaos. So good. I again really enjoyed this weekend's racing, particularly the Monday races that we've had here in GB4. It's been absolutely enthralling. We'll take a look again at what we had to cut away from as Jack Sherwood would go straight on here. I think he might have just locked a brake there. It looks like he realised he was in his mirrors, missed his his braking point, braked too late, and thought, you know what, I'm much better off not going across the grass here. And managed to. I wonder if the stewards will have a look at that. I think it should be okay because he didn't gain an advantage, so he should be okay. But that's very risky to be going down there. Normally, you lose more time going down that cut through. So obviously he's been practicing that in the practice sessions, going through those blocks, because he did it very well. Maybe he should take up auto solo.
Yeah, that was a good effort. I will say, obviously, quite a small car. It's a bit easier to dart your way through that.
Good point.
If you were in something slightly larger, it'd be a solid F on that one, and I think you'd be done at least for that position. He also nearly chopped the wing off his teammate as well.
Still
They're both very, very close indeed. Dominant from this man, though. We saw dominance in the previous couple of races from Alex Walker, who took his third victory in 5 races. Unfortunately, for him, it will become his third victory in 6, as the Kevin Mills racing car, grey and blue, finally comes out of the corner, and it is a race victory for the Kevin Mills Racing Camp, finally, in the 2022 season of the GB4 Championship, courtesy of a dominant display from Jared Waberski. Behind him, Jessica Edgar comes across the line in the 17 Fortec car for her first podium, and Max Maserati finishes in 3rd after 6th place a bit earlier on in the day, 2nd place in race number 1, and he looks to secure himself a very strong 2nd in the championship, although he will actually be overtaken by Waberski, who was quite close. So I'm getting too far ahead of myself. It's so exciting.
What a race. Excellent race there. Again, the racing today in GB4 has been incredible. I was chatting to Rob Barth over lunch, the driver steward for these championships over this weekend, and he actually complimented the drivers, called them up to the steward room and complimented on their racing between Waberski and Maserati in the previous race. Remember when they touched wheels out the last corner? Awesome racing, hard racing but fair, no one having any contact or very little contact, and where they could avoid it. And again today, that racing, that middle group from, what was it, 3rd down to 7th, 8th place was awesome racing throughout. Alex Walker will be disappointed to have lost places there, but I think he did well to just keep it going. Oftentimes young drivers like that, they'll lose their head once they lose a couple of places, try a silly move, whereas obviously he's got that gap in the championship. He doesn't need to force it. Of course he would like to have finished ahead of Taylor because that's his main championship rival, or he thinks maybe on pace, and maybe not in the championship as it is, but on pace they've been the fastest too. But he's still managed a solid 7th place finish. I think Maserati also a notable finish, another podium.
Do you think there might be a little bit of irritation as well that it was his teammate that got through for Alex Walker?
I feel like it's everyone for themselves.
Yeah, I agree, especially at this level. Yes, they're in the same livery as you, and if you hit them off, you're going to have to deal with it directly. But you know.
It's a little bit different when you're racing for a team where the drivers are employed, and obviously the team then employs your drivers, whereas these drivers, they all bring their own budget via sponsors or family or however they get to the grid, and obviously that takes a lot of work, so they're going to go out and take as much as they can get. Of course, you work with your teammates to help the team forward, but other than that, I'll let you talk through the results.
No worries. Jared Waberski then takes his first win of the season, the first win for Kevin Mills Racing. Jessica Edgar in 2nd position, her first podium of the season. Fantastic drive for her, slightly by herself to be honest throughout the majority of the day. Maserati back onto the podium for the 3rd time this season. Elias Ardestam in 4th position with Nicholas Taylor finishing inside the top 5. I think he'll be pretty happy with that. It's a decent reverse grid race. Jack Sherwood just getting ahead of his Elite Motorsports teammate in the form of Alex Walker, your championship leader, down in 7th place with Mills, Hannah and George Line rounding out the top 10. Of course, those behind being Megan Jilkes, who managed to respond by setting the fastest lap of the race, which you can see at the bottom of your screen, despite having that quite large off into the island bend, and Chloe Grant in the 12th and final spot. No retirement from today's race, and no one going a lap down as well. We obviously had Jessica Edgar going a lap down a bit earlier on in the day, but either way, not quite the perfect weekend from Alex Walker. It could have been based on the start of his race in this one. Absolutely flew up the order in fantastic fashion. You can see him there in Parc Ferme. Obviously we'll have a chat with them in a moment, but Waberski, who I was wisely informed wasn't able to return home to South Africa over the break between races, so had to get his clothes washed elsewhere. You can see John Jackson standing beside with Jared Waberski.
Yeah, Jared, we've spoken to you before here in Parc Ferme, but not after just winning. So it's your first race in GB4, and it was a good decision to come over from South Africa.
Yeah, no, really chuffed. I mean, where the weekend started off, to finish it off with a win, I think it's just amazing. You know, I can't thank the team enough. I think this weekend's a pure example of to never give up. So we put in the good results, a 3rd and a 4th and a win. So really chuffed, couldn't ask for much better.
Absolutely, and you know, there's a bit of wheel-to-wheel stuff going on in that 2nd race, so it's probably nice for you to maybe not get too involved in things in this race.
Yeah, I think this is the first race I've had where it's just been clean air the whole race, so it was a bit more calm, but anyway, the second race is good racing.
If you missed the first race of the GB4 Championship, we talked to you and your father Garth, who I believe is around here somewhere. Where is he? I can't see him. Is he still here?
He's probably walked out, I think.
Oh, there he is. He's over there. Well, let's just wave him. Let's see. Garth! Oh, no. I don't think we'll get him. Maybe we'll have to walk over to him. But you literally, you made the decision to come to the UK and do this championship with very few days' notice. And I believe you haven't even been home yet since Netterton.
Yeah, I mean, I found out pretty much a day before that we're coming to the UK, we're going to race. So no pre-season testing. First time, it's at Netterton, my first time here at Oulton. So, yeah, I'm missing home a little bit, but yeah, I'm really glad to be here.
Excellent stuff. Well, Jonathan Palmer's here, the man behind the championship, watching. Here we go. Garth Wilberski, we're just talking to Jared there, saying, it's definitely been the right decision to come over at short notice from South Africa.
Yeah, it has. It's been incredible. Jared's done fantastic. He showed his maturity and his talent, and it's fantastic to have a driver like him and not only be a father, but thanks to Kevin Mills and SD team and everybody back home. I think half of the live watching is basically from South Africa. So I'd like to thank everybody and congratulate Jared. It's incredible.
And I have to move on, but you've obviously been staying here in the UK since you came over. Where have you been doing your washing?
We basically been staying in a travel lodge, and we've been doing dry cleaning. So yeah, one set of clothes lasted 3 weeks, so it's quite good.
That's good. You can always wash things in a sink, and if you hang them up when the shower's on, it'll iron them nicely. Garth, thank you very much. He'll be celebrating with his son Jared. We'll get a quick word with Jessica Edgar here with Fortec. Hey Jessica, nice to speak to you finally in Parc Fermé. How was that race for you?
It was really good. I got past Hannah at the start and then kept my head.
And I guess in GB4, much like any kind of karting or any kind of division, getting a good start's very important. As you say, you did very well there.
Yeah, I struggled at Snetterton with my starts, but I think I've got the hang of it now, and I made a good start into third and then second on the second corner and then finished second. So.
Well, look, now you've made the podium, now you've got the starts down, I'm sure we're going to see some great things from you and the Fortec team. So we'll let you go to the podium now, and I'll just go and grab Max Maserati, which is always an entertaining thing to do. Let's walk over here, chatting with Jared Wilberski and the ever-elusive MSB representative, Richard Randall. How are you doing, Max? That's a bit more positive after that second race.
Yeah, that's much better. that's much what we're trying to do, but it was so stressful. Like, I could just see this train behind me, and I was just like, oh my god. So lap after lap, and as well, like, everyone held up the pit board, obviously thinking, I think the penultimate lap was the last lap. So I came by and thinking, oh, it's over. And then they were all like, one more lap, and I was like, no.
Well, I can tell you, yeah, the one more lap was by 2 seconds. So,
thanks, Jared.
yeah, Jared went over there by 2 seconds, made you have to do an extra lap.
Thanks, mate.
Just put an extra lap on that car, an extra couple of miles or so. But it must be really nice to know, you've been described as Mr. Consistency so far in this championship. 6 races down, and you're still up there, and you're still doing really well.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be second in the championship or Jared is. I think it's going to be quite close between us. I think I had 1 point over Mills. It was like that close, that group, after that second race. But it just shows you that drop down from when I was P2 in the last one to then 4th to 6th in that race, how much of an effect it can have on the championship. So it's all about just being consistent. Hopefully that 6th is as worse as it's going to get for us, but we'll see, because it seems that in the reverse grid races we're quite good at coming through on the opening lap. So
you absolutely are. Well, look, we've had a lot of fun chatting to you this weekend. Go to the podium. Yeah. We'll chat to you again at Silverstone. Max Maserati with Hill Speed. He's going to be up and around the top of the championship, and we'll hand off now to the highlights and the classification with Lewis.
What a fantastic starting from pole position. Jessica Edgar getting a decent launch down into the first corner, but Jared Wilberski on the inside. The number 20 Kevin Mills racing car, a little bit of contact between the two girls on the outside. Wilberski trying to grab the race lead straight away as they all remain side by side through a majority of the opener of the first lap. Wilberski had the lead, Edgar had second position, and then it was crazy town for third place. Maserati with a little bit of a lock up on the brake as he was trying to defend, more so from Elias Ardestam and Alex Walker, who had a fantastic launch, going up 5 places on the grid after starting from pole position, as he would try and find his way past the young Swede. Constantly looking in his mirrors was Ardestam, just trying to hang on to that position. Unfortunately, there would be no opportunity. A little bit wide there as they were running side by side for the island bend. Megan Jilkes a little bit missighted, and she went off the road. She'd eventually get back going again and would set the fastest lap of the race. Then this frantic battle for 4th would continue. Elias Ardestam with Alex Walker behind, Nicholas Taylor and Jack Sherwood. It was absolutely electric scenes. They closed up to Maserati as well, and the battle would become for third spot. It wasn't without its issues. Alex Walker having a couple of those moments before Chloe Grant went for a spin just ahead of Megan Jilkes. Not sure if there was contact between the two, but Chloe Grant either way departed down the road. Jack Sherwood get past his Elite Motorsports teammate and up into 6th position, going fairly aggressive just to try and get past that 41. Tom Mills in the background as well. Then Jack Sherwood would skip the chicane. He'd come out just ahead of his teammate, but Jared Boberski would be completely in control of this race, taking the lead on lap 1 and winning in the 6th round of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. We'll head down to the podium in a few moments' time as well, so we can see that fantastic victory from Jared Boberski. Honestly, completely in control. There's Jonathan Palmer and Richard Randall as well, standing by to see all of their drivers heading onto the podium. A great podium for Jessica Edgar. Honestly, incredible scenes. There is Boberski just on the right-hand side of the shot in the blue overalls, of course, the white and green highlighted overalls. There is Max Maserati coming up to take a podium. It is his 3rd podium of the season. Finished second the 3rd race in Snetterton and finished second in the 1st race at Oulton Park back on Saturday. Had a bit of a struggle in race number 2 and now back onto the podium. Jessica Edgar, though, who'd been in the top 10 4 times in the 2022 season of the GB4 Championship, and now she gets her 1st podium as well. But Jared Boberski, who started out with incredible speed, qualified in 3rd position in the opening 2 races of the season, had struggled in qualifying here, but this time it is his race, coming out on top and taking the trophy for victory. That is one that he is going to cherish as a memory. The 6th race of the GB4 Championship goes to the South African. Kevin Mills Racing, despite they were leading the championship coming into Oulton Park and the team side of things, they hadn't had a race win. They had plenty of podiums between Boberski and Tom Mills. This round, obviously losing out a couple of issues for Tom Mills when it comes to that start. Had an issue in the race 1 start here at Oulton Park, finished 2nd yesterday as well, and then ended up having issues in this race and had to start from pit lane. His teammate, though, well in control of this one. And there, I believe, is Alex Walker for, to be honest, being fantastic all weekend and winning the overall weekend. Also having a couple of pole positions as well, and whilst it is Easter Monday, might as well get himself a bit of egg. Although, to be fair, if you're going to have a chocolate egg, a nice Easter egg, I probably wouldn't recommend eating it if you're a racing driver. You've got to keep yourself well in shape. Of course, in such a light car like this, they really do not weigh very much at all, so you can't push it too far. That said, I don't think it will last long. I certainly wouldn't. It would be, to be honest, I'd have eaten it on the podium, so yeah, there is that. Still no champagne. Obviously, Max Maserati learning from his earlier exploits of trying to fire the champagne and then tripping up over himself, as obviously the interviews are certainly not done. Not even from our point of view as well, as John Jackson is standing by.
Trying to find drivers after that exhilarating race. With the co-commentator Piers Pryor, who is I think he needs a minute, actually. He's just off camera here. He looks very, very stressed. Let's have a look and see who we can find here. Obviously, we've got Chloe Grant here. Let's see if Chloe Grant will talk to us. It wasn't a great race for her. Chloe, we are live. Do you want to talk to me? Yeah, okay. Now, you did come last in that race, but you weren't too far off the pace. Some of your laps were out there. Are you just looking for more consistency, would you say?
Yeah, I think the car wasn't feeling too great for me. The back end was constantly wanting to step out. So corners I could take flat out, I wasn't able to there. I didn't have the grip I wanted, and as you saw the chicane, I was a bit sideways a few times, and unfortunately when Megan was trying to overtake me, I ended up spinning. But yeah, it's racing. I'm just learning the car still, so at least I'm able to feed back to the team how I feel the car is. And
they were talking on the commentary during this that, you know, a lot of people coming into GB4 haven't, you know, it's a 3-pedal clutch like a normal road car, but a lot of people haven't driven a road car. So, you know, although it translates from driving a road car, you know, you're at the age where you haven't, I'm presuming, legally driven a road car. So it's even learning from karting is tricky.
Yeah, I think, but I was quite lucky that I got to do the GACC last year, so I'm used to clutch starts and used to actually using the clutch for an entire lap. So I'm back to karting style more now with just brake and accelerator. But yeah, it's good. I love it. It's really fun.
And we've seen you doing signings with Graham Brunton Racing with laser tools, and I believe, now this is quite impressive, ran out of posters earlier.
We have actually, yeah. We need to print off some more for Silverstone.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, well, Silverstone's the next track. Is that a track you like? I'm sure you've driven it many times on Sims.
Yes, I've driven Silverstone GP thousands of times on my sim. Like, even before I knew I was going to go, it's such a brilliant track. I'm really excited, actually.
Okay, well, good. We will catch up with you then. Best of luck for Silverstone. Chloe Grant there from Graham Brunton Racing with Laser Tools chatting to me live here on the live stream. We're going to see if we can find some more drivers, guys. We do have Chloe's sister, Lucy, who does represent, does a lot of PR for the team, but unfortunately she won't talk to me. Here we go. We'll speak to Megan Jilkes here. Now, we will hear more from Megan Jilkes and her family, because it's kind of like a family affair. You know, you've got your dad, her dad Brent here, and as you can see in the background, Nick Jilkes is getting ready to race as well. So he's racing in the GB3 for Hill Speed, and well, let's see if Megan will come and talk to me now. I don't know if she's going to want to, but she's going to have to. I've just said, Megan, you may not want to talk to me, but unfortunately you're going to have to, because you went for a little ride on the grass there. Tell me about that.
I had a bit of an adventure, yeah. I was so... There were 3 wide in front of me, and I was so busy trying to set myself up for ESO and was a bit unsighted by the 3 cars ahead of me. I missed the apex for Island by a bit, and then just got on the marble, spun off, had a ride through the grass, took the scenic route, got going eventually, and I was putting in some decent lap times. I think I had the fastest lap in the end. But, you know, once you make one mistake like that, then it's just too much to catch back up.
It's disappointing, but you still had a decent-ish weekend, I'll say. And, you know what, I was very impressed that you managed to keep it going, because a lot of people that spin out on the grass there, they may panic, they may stall, they may not be able to recover, but you managed to get going again at least. So it's not the end of the world. And we're going to find out a bit more about your family in just a second, actually. We spoke to the Jilkes family earlier on. We know Nick's getting ready to race in the GB3 race that's coming up. So, Megan Jilkes, thank you for now, and we'll hear from you weirdly again in a little bit, OK?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, right, we're going to move on now. Whether we can find anyone else, I'm not entirely sure. Not sure there are any drivers. No, so I'm going to hand things over just for now. We have the GB3 race. It's the final GB3 race of the weekend. It's the 3rd race in the championship, 3rd race here at Oulton Park. We're going to come back. We're going to find out more about the Jilkes family. Nick Jilkes driving for Hill Speed in that championship. We'll be back in about 10 minutes' time. Well, there we go, a nice short break in between the races here at Oulton Park. The GB4 Championship is complete for the weekend. 6 races down in that championship so far. And now we turn our attention to the final GB3 race of the weekend. Already in the high-tech, which is just the side of me here, Luke Browning has been dominating this division so far, winning by massive margins. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this reverse grid race coming up very, very soon as well. You might be able to see behind me just for Chris Dittman Racing. In the last race, you might have seen Brandon Oxley going off over the gravel. They've been replacing his floor. They've got the old floor just thrown out there. Looks like he's taken a bit of an impact there on the one side, so that's been replaced. A bit of fiddling around with the suspension as well, but he'll be ready to race in just a second or so. But I did mention this earlier if you're watching the GB4 commentary. Nick Jilkes, who's driving for Hill Speed, his sister you may have just seen driving, Megan Jilkes, she's driving to Hill Speed in GB4. Their father is here. We're going to speak to them in just a second. We're going to find out how they're getting on in the UK, obviously coming from Canada originally. But first, let's see what happened in race 2 of the GB3 Championship here at Oulton Park earlier.
And what a race it was. Luke Browning from pole position yet again away well. Roberto Faria, though, from third position. He was the one that would attack Joel Granfors down into second place at the first corner. Elite Motorsports going a bit side by side in the background, as well as Levin lost out to his teammate John Bennett, who'd worked his way up the order. As well, a little bit of contact with Mackenzie Cresswell coming through into the Shell Oils hairpin. It was Flack who was being sent off wide a little bit by Brandon Oxley. James Headley would battle it out with Callum Voisin, who was on fresh tyres in this one. Constant action all the way throughout. Segura was also attacking, and unfortunately out of the race it was Kean Shields. Brilliant move from Alex Connor straight down the inside of Marcus Flack, and then in the background as well there was a similar move as Bryce Aaron would get down the inside of David Morales rather. It was absolutely scintillating on the run through the second race. It was edge of your seat action every time you look. Bryce Aaron being pushed off wide by Marcus Flack, and that would allow David Morales to come straight back through. The 32 of Alex Connor side by side, a little bit of contact with Brandon Oxley, and that's what would send him off and out of the race, would get beached into that gravel trap, and unfortunately his day would be done. The thrilling battle for third position on the track though, as Matthew Rees would try and get past Joel Granfors. Faria would finish second, but it was all about Luke Browning, who was completely dominant for the second race in a row and leading the championship by a very comfortable margin. High Tech Grand Prix in control.
Thanks very much, Lewis. Luke Browning very much dominant so far. As I say, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the reverse grid race coming up very, very soon. But I'm standing here in front of Hill Speed. You know, it's a team that's done very well at this level before. It's I would say sort of the bigger independent teams, and two of their drivers are related. They're driving in the GB3 and the GB4. And earlier on, I caught up with Nick Jilkes, his sister Megan Jilkes, and Dad Brent. In both the GB4 and the GB3 championship. We've also got Dad, who's come over from Canada. It's the Jilkes family. Now, we've already heard a lot from you, Megan, because you've done very well, the first female winner in the GB4 championship, and also we just saw earlier on today, you did all right there, a bit of a battle for 4th, 5th and 6th, I believe it was. But, you know, you're in GB4, and I always see this strange guy hanging around, and he's supporting you and you're supporting him. And if I didn't know, I'd be like, there's definitely something going on there, definitely brother and sister. And Nick, you're racing a GB3 coming up later, so it must be amazing for you to have watched what Megan's done so far.
Yeah, she's done a fantastic job all season. I know it's only 2 races in, but to qualify third yesterday and be right there for the podium almost today and on Saturday. And then obviously the win at Snet was incredible. She's doing really, really well.
She is indeed, and I remember when we first met, before the season started, you were actually the first person I spoke to ahead of this championship, and you mentioned your sister, and you mentioned that she was a racer, and I looked her up and I went, oh, she's done some cool things, she's done W Series, and then suddenly I get a message saying she's doing this series. So how did this come about, Megan? How did you suddenly find yourself in GB4?
Thanks. It was a pretty last-minute decision, really. Richard at Hill Speed gave us a call, and he said to me, do you fancy driving a GB4 this weekend? And the answer was obviously yes. And yeah, it was supposed to be a one-off round at Snetterton, but thanks to the fantastic media coverage that GB4 has given its drivers and its teams, and thanks to the good result that I got there, I was able to secure some sponsorship from Quattro Group to be racing this weekend. So really grateful to be racing at Oulton Park, and hopefully I can keep going with a working relationship with them and keep racing throughout the whole season.
Absolutely, and still doing incredibly well as well. Now, I say that you both support each other nicely. I've seen that when Nick did his first race on Saturday, you were there and right to the last minute giving him words of advice. What kind of things do you say between each other as siblings?
There's not too much said, just mostly good luck with her. She's more experienced than me, so there's nothing I can teach her realistically. She knows, well, more than me in almost everything there is from my eyes, so it's always me taking advice from her.
I just say do whatever your sister would do.
Really? Right, Maverick.
No,
Maverick,
do what Megan wouldn't do.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we get along really well, and I've worked with him right from when we started off in karts. I used to be his mechanic and his engineer when he was karting, so to be on the grid with him still and just, you know, giving him those last minute words of wisdom and watching him go out, it's almost more stressful watching him race than watching myself race.
We have seen that with
driving
a lot of
myself.
families that we've chatted to so far. It's very stressful to watch, you know, your sons and your daughters racing, and that brings perfectly to for us to bring Dad in, Brent Jilkes, who lives in Canada. You're from Canada, from Ontario, and you've come over. You didn't come over for the first GB4, but as both the kids are racing now, you had to come over for this one here at Oulton Park. What are your initial thoughts of? I'm sure you've watched for many years racing in different divisions, but racing these impressive looking cars.
Oh, it's incredible. Just coming across to watch the Snetterton round. It happened so late. There was no way that I could get over, but you couldn't have kept me away from this weekend. Nick making his F3 debut, Megan following on for what she did at Snetterton. Yeah, couldn't wait to get over here.
And I believe in our little conversations we've had in the assembly area that you would you class yourself as a retired driver yourself?
Oh, I'm very retired. Since they started, my time has been focused really on working on their karts when they were racing in Canada. And now, there's nothing that I should be doing other than giving them as much support as I can.
That's good to see. Now, obviously being from Canada, coming over here, and I know you've been here for a little while and everything. Is there anything you miss about Canada? And I know we spoke about this before, Megan. Is there anything, Nick, I'll ask you, anything you miss from Canada that you can't find in the UK?
Well, my mum at the moment.
Well, yes.
Yeah, my mum, my friends, a couple of things. But then the racing is over here, so that's what you have to do if you want to make it in motorsport, is come across to Europe. So, yeah, I miss quite a few things, but it's a sacrifice you have to make.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to end this because before your race win at Snetterton on the reverse grid, I said to you, Megan, I said, come on, I don't want to be talking to you back at the garage because things have gone wrong. I want to be talking to you in Parc Fermé because you've won. And I said, come on, you need to win. And did I promise you something, that if you won, you'd get something?
Yeah, you did. That's really the whole thing that pushed me to the finish line at Snet. You promised me some Timbits, a Canadian delicacy.
Okay, so if you've never had Timbits before, you might not have been to Tim Hortons in Canada. It's basically a range of coffee shops, and they sell these amazing little donuts, right? So they are in the UK, but they're not very close to here. So I'm just going to delve into my mystery bag here. So if you just like to watch me go into my bag, now you're probably expecting me to bring out a big box of Timbits right now.
I'm going to be devastated if it's not.
Oh dear. What? Unfortunately, I know that obviously Tim Hortons is Canadian. I had to go to the United States.
Oh.
I had to go to a competitor, Dunkin', but the man there, his name is James. I told him all about this. He said they're very similar to Timbits. So I'd like you just to end this. Maybe if you want to try one, and just let me know. Do you think the Dunkin' Donuts? Then I don't know what they call them.
Good effort, North Americans.
Yeah.
So.
I did promise you. We've got the basic glaze.
Go on, Megs. Hand them around.
Go on.
If you're obviously, if you're pre-race preparation, that you don't have to have one, it's fine. I've been told by Megan and Brent that you will be, you'll all, fine. Here we go. To end this, let's just have a bite, and let's thumbs up or thumbs down for the Timbit competitor. I know I didn't quite deliver. Better or worse than Timbits?
Better.
There we go. Exclusive. This show is not sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons, but the Timbits are inferior to Dunkin' Donuts. The Jilkes family in GB3, GB4 and retired, but you never know, you might be tempted to have a go in one of these cars one day. Thank you very much for chatting to me, and best of luck for this championship.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. And our live coverage here isn't sponsored by any baked goods, but my word, we wish it was, and maybe we're available. Anyway, I'm here with Piers Pryor. You've driven the level of car that we're talking about today, the GB3 car. It was maybe not called GB3 back then. And you pointed out to me, we saw this a little bit earlier, Brandon Oxley's flaw from the Chris Dittman Racing car. Now, you commentated on him going off here, and I mean, is this a quick fix? It looks like he's damaged it pretty badly.
Well, the flaws all come in one piece, as you can see, or generally in one piece. So it's fairly quick because they can unbolt them from the cars. But this is a lot of where the downforce comes on the car. You can see that they're really, really big. Obviously, this is a big chunk missing. But if you look on that side that's under the truck, they go out a long way. And this is what's broken off here. And that's probably partly the reason why he won't have been able to carry on. But a lot of the floor, the air goes underneath, past the front wing and then underneath the car, produces a low pressure, which then sucks the car to the ground. And there is a bigger flaws this year, along with the halo and the new bits and pieces on the car, which obviously creates a lot more downforce. That's where we get quite a lot of the downforce from. And also it's a big talking point at the moment in Formula 1 with the new flaws that they've been putting on the cars, which hopefully is to increase the racing. So again, maybe GB3 has taken a leaf out of the book with Formula 1 there. But as we saw in the actual race, when Brandon had the touch with Alex Connor, it was a racing incident in my opinion, but it'd be interesting to see what the stewards say on that. But we saw that the car goes sideways across the grass, and the grass around here is quite bumpy and quite undulating and soft. And you can see the bits of carbon fibre flying off, because this is the side here, the big chunk missing, where it got taken off and broken and unfortunately ended up in the gravel. But if Brandon could have carried on, he would have noticed a significant reduction in downforce with this and probably wouldn't have been able to carry on anyway. But yeah, if obviously CDR, Chris Shipman Racing, done a great job to fix the car between the second and third race. It was something that they knew they wouldn't be able to get out because it's something that they'd practice a lot. Obviously, they change the floors sometimes in the workshops to check them out. Also, they can get damaged if you go through the gravel. The front edge can get sort of blistered and sort of sandblasted. So it's a fairly standard fix, but also there's quite a lot of carbon on these, so not cheap.
I was going to say, in terms of the teams, when they come to the race weekends, we see them here in these big trucks like all of the different teams have. How many floors are they going to be bringing with them? Because obviously if this happened in every race, there's an issue that they may not be able to run a car, or they're running a car that's not really going to be competing.
To be honest, I don't know exactly how many they bring. Obviously the Motorsport MSV truck with all the bits for they run the series, they have lots of spares. The teams will naturally bring a couple, 2 or 3 spares with them, I imagine. They're not cheap parts, but they're parts that are fairly... If you go off, they're fairly consumable, even though they are big parts of the car. Again, front wings and stuff like that. These are the parts that, in close racing, and if you make a mistake, then they're quite easy damage. So they'll have lots of spares. But the teams are really well versed. They're well practiced in changing all the parts. And there'll be no issue for Mackenzie going out in the next race, I imagine.
Okay, that's good. It's Brendan Oxley, wasn't it? Not Mackenzie, but it's fine. It's all good. Looks like we'll have a full grid for that race. Now, we are here for the GB3 race, the final race of the weekend here at Oulton Park. If you saw in the GB4 commentary and the coverage, there was one man, Alex Walker, that absolutely stormed the first 2 races, did very well to get quite high up into the points in that third race. And actually, as we were positioning to come here, me and Piers, Piers was out of shot, but I bumped into the Alex Walker fan club, members of his family. Here's what they had to say. Now, there's one standout driver so far in the GB4 Championship. It's Alex Walker. He keeps winning. He's won 3 out of the 5 races so far. And I keep seeing a big fan group all supporting Alex Walker. So I've just seen them now. So we've stopped and we've got Flora, we've got Michelle. Flora's the girlfriend, Michelle is the mother. You must be very proud of what he's doing so far.
Very, very proud. It's amazing. Yeah, he's been doing it since he was 8. Karting, and he's just doing so well now. He's fantastic.
And I'm going to say, sort of watching on there, I see you in the setup area we've just got behind us here, just before Alex races. What are you saying to him? What kind of things?
Well, he's never really nervous before a race. He's more excited to do it, so it's more just have fun, try your best. So
you don't really need to cheer him up at all.
No, no, it's pretty cool.
Okay, that's
he's
pretty.
Very calm.
Yeah,
he's always really calm.
I was going to say, is that the secret to his driving? You know, he's been getting some good starts, and it seems like while others are maybe, the nerves are getting to them slightly with their starts and their clutch control, he just seems to be getting a good start each time. So, it's just that calmness, you'd say?
Yeah, he's just very chilled, actually. He's very chilled. He just takes it all in his stride.
Yeah, it comes very naturally, so, yeah. It's good.
And finally, obviously, when the drivers win, they win a trophy. They also win some champagne. It's not real champagne, it's alcohol-free champagne. Do you guys celebrate in a particular way every time he wins, or is it just, you're getting so used to it now that, it's just like, all right, well, maybe we'll get McDonald's on the way home kind of thing?
No, we have no routine or anything like that. I think we're just lots of smiles, so.
We'll celebrate when he wins the championship properly.
There we go, there's a prediction for the end of the season when Alex Walker wins the championship. Guys, look forward to the next race, and thank you for chatting to me, and I'll let you continue being his support crew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as if by magic, I've repositioned to the assembly area where we can have a look at the cars as we have been doing throughout the day and throughout the weekend here at Oulton Park. So this is the reverse grid, so actually you'll see some names up front that we haven't seen up front before. So the Danish driver Mikael Grundtvig is on pole position here today. Not been his weekend by any stretch of the imagination so far. Looking at the Douglas Motorsport here, one of 2 Australians on the grid, Tommy Smith. He was, we chatted before the season, he was very much hoping to probably have a better start than he's had so far, but sitting on the front row of the grid there, we did hear at the end of the second race that being on that side of the track may not be an advantage. We heard that, being third was actually the better side to be on, so it'll be interesting to see if that's the same in this upcoming race now. We're still getting cars positioning here, Cian Shields' car, the Scotsman, the high-tech just being reversed into place here. Now I mentioned this before, Jilkes family, can't get away from them here. Nick Jilkes, obviously starting here in the number 64, the red car here for Hill Speed, starting third on the grid. And as I mentioned earlier, Dad Brent, sister Megan, just raced in GB4, still there chatting to the man behind all of this, Jonathan Palmer. It's one of those things, like you want the support of your family, they're literally always here. There's never a moment where they're not apart. It's crazy. Anyway, we'll walk up the grid a little bit more. We've got the cars here of Morales and Cian Shields, as I mentioned here. 2 drivers who, really haven't been making waves just yet in the championship. They'll be hoping for some good results especially with this reverse grid race. This reverse grid race does really open up the possibilities of getting some better results, because obviously you're a lot further forward than you would have been if you didn't qualify very well. Now let's see if we can find someone to chat to as we walk around here. A lot of drivers there. Brandon Loxley's the one with the new floor, so we can see there the brand new carbon fibre floor. Carbon, it's easy for me to say, carbon fibre floor, as Piers was just telling us about there. So they've been working tirelessly to get that on there, maybe tweaking the suspension slightly if that took a little bit of a hit in that little bit where he went off the track in the second race. Now I'm going to bring Piers Pryor back in. I'm going to have you this side if that's okay. Just looking at the cars here, we've got the new, I mean, can you talk me through, on the side, what is it?
The side of...
On the side of the car, the big sort of torpedo style thing, which we didn't see when you were racing in 2020.
Yes, so the air intake, basically, before we had the air intake going in above the driver, where the air goes into the engine, it had the air filter, whereas now it goes back to a more traditional, what we call like maybe a Formula 3 style airbox, where it's on the side. It has a bit more of a ram effect because it's right in the direct stream of the air, very uninterrupted flow. Maybe it allows a bit more space for the air to go in, so you can have a bigger air filter, which contributes towards that extra 30 horsepower towards that 250 total that we've got at the moment.
I actually I had someone tweet me and ask if it was a some kind of nitrous oxide. No, it's not. Should we go and have a closer look? Maybe, I don't know which car is easy to look at. There is a gentleman standing by that one. Let's maybe go over to one of the Elite Motorsports cars over here and just have a closer look at that. So normally, here on John Bennett's car, normally the air take here, as you say, was above. So that's just been repositioned there to give an advantage.
Yeah, it's more traditional sort of place for it. I think it looks really cool. It looks very much traditional F3. I think it allows again for that a bit more air in the engine and a bit easier airflow over the side pod. But yeah, they look great. Again, obviously part of all the new upgrade package with the new front wings and the bigger in plates. We've got the new, I think, a similar rear wing, the bigger floors we just spoke about as well, producing a bit more underfloor downforce. You can see that front edge of the floor there. That's one of the delicate parts. You go after the gravel there. That's what can get damaged.
Yeah. Well, your gentleman here with his nice Merrill shoes, you don't want to be putting them too near that. That's an expensive thing to fix, isn't it, Piers? I was going to ask you before, what's the most expensive smash you've had? Because you mentioned the floor's an expensive thing. When you were racing, did you manage to cause some damage?
I did, but I tried to think about it.
Okay. I mean, do you want to talk about it or not? No.
To be honest, I don't know the numbers, but I know obviously a lot of these parts in the car, well, most of this, you can see most of the parts are carbon, and carbon fibre can't be fixed. As soon as that part is dented or cracked, that's it, new parts, so they're not cheap.
No, that's gone. Well, we'll take a bit more of a walk around here. Javier Sagrera here in the Carling car is making a lot of noise, so we'll just move around maybe a little bit here. Jonathan Palmer, the chief aficionado, may come over and talk to us in a minute. He's been eyeing me up. I think he maybe wants to get a bit more time on camera, but that's fine. He is the man behind this. I think we allow him as much time as he wants on there. Tom Leben here, probably wanting to get a better race going. He's been very unlucky so far. You can tell Tom Leben apart, by the way, from the other cars for Elite, because he's got the beautiful sort of, I don't know what you call the effect where it goes from one shade of purple to another, but it's very striking, and you can see it while it's going on there, and Piers, certainly on commentary, I'm sure is looking out for that, so he'll be hoping for a good race as well. Now we can walk around to the back of the grid here, and these are the kind of cars that we've already seen a few times because they've normally been at the front. Matthew Rees did very well, came third in the first race of the championship yesterday. He's been hoping for a good race as well, the Welshman in the high-tech car. And obviously here, Roberto Faria, who we saw come second in that race just there, and he was the driver that said starting third on that side of the grid, actually the same side of the grid as the pole sitter, he actually preferred that because he started second before. Didn't really like that side of the track, so it'd be interesting to see when we're talking about the drivers who are up front whether that is an advantage or that's just a personal preference for that driver. And as we move back, some of the guys that we've already introduced you to quite a few times, Joel Granfors here, the Swedish driver, driving for Fortec, obviously doing very well in that last race as well. And as we go around, we've got Luke Browning, the championship leader right now. Now he's not starting at the back. Obviously it's a reverse race grid. He did qualify on pole for both of the first two races, because it is done on 103% of the fastest time. So we do have two drivers who weren't within 103%. Alex Connor had a big engine problem. He had to have a full rebuild just before that first race. And also Luke's teammate, Bryce Aaron, the American driver, a lot of problems there which affected his qualifying. So he unfortunately missed out on that 103% of the fastest time. So he will start right at the back here. We're going to make our way back towards the front of the grid now, though. I believe they're Nearly getting ready there. I'm going to just mention to Piers, actually, when you won here, where did you start on the grid? Was it first?
It was pole, yes.
Okay.
Obviously, we've been mentioning that round here, especially in these GB3 cars, the amount of downforce, it's very hard to actually force an overtake. So if you're in front and you make, a fairly clean race, don't make any mistakes, then it's a lot easier to defend than maybe some of the other circuits.
So Mikko Grundvig, the Dane who was starting on pole, he hasn't really had the success he probably wants so far in these 5 races till now. If he gets into that first corner and he can keep that pace and keep there, you think he's got a chance of winning today?
Absolutely. I think everyone in this grid that is at the front of the field has obviously shown that they can be within 103% of the fastest lap, so that's not a huge difference. And if he can get out and lead from pole position, have a good start and then a clean first lap, and then doesn't make any mistakes throughout the race, it'll be very hard for anyone to beat him.
Now, Luke Browning, who we've introduced you to there, he's starting last in inferior before the drivers that didn't make the 103%. What can he expect? Because this is, compared to the GB4, it's a much larger field, almost twice as many drivers here. How many places is he realistically going to make up? Because we've seen he's got the pace, but it's a hard track to overtake on.
It's very difficult to predict, actually, because obviously you've got effectively the slowest drivers at the front and the fast drivers at the back, so there's a lot of bunching. You might get groups, people tangling with each other. So if I was Luke or someone in the front of the championship and starting at the back of this grid, you're going to be trying to make advantage of all the positions you can at the start, so making a good start. He's seen his starts have been excellent so far, pulling away and jumping away, pulling out a second and a half on the first lap at least every race. Obviously he can't do that. He can jump up a couple of rows maybe, and then when people are going side by side, if he can then use those people tripping over each other to try and make up some extra places, maybe 2 or 3 at a time, that'll be what he will be looking to do. But it's very difficult to also stay out of trouble at the same time, because obviously you're right on the gearbox of someone else has a tangle, you can very easily lose a front wing and that's race over.
We're going to have to see a patient drive from here, I'd imagine, to do that. Now, we did see Brandon Loxley obviously go off. Now, in these reverse grid races, there are a lot of faster drivers behind slower drivers, and that means there's, in theory, more overtaking, and then there's more things to go wrong. Do you think we're going to see a few more cars going off in this race?
Well, we never like to see cars going off, and hopefully everyone has a nice clean race, but I think the likelihood of there being, more close racing, people overtaking, going side by side, which we've seen in GB4 as well, would be great to see, but I think that's a lot more likely in this race. The first 2 GB3 races have been really good fun to watch, obviously, but hopefully this one produces something a bit different with a lot more close racing and maybe a few more bunches together.
Excellent. I feel we haven't spoken about the tyres much. Now, when it's very cold, obviously the tyres take quite a long time to warm up. It's not as warm as it was on Saturday. Saturday was about 18 degrees here. Today, the sun has literally come out as I've started talking about that, but it's probably about 12 to 14 degrees. How many laps around the track do you think it will take for these tyres to get to their optimum heat?
Yeah, they do take a while to come in. They're quite, obviously no tyre warmers in GB3, because that's obviously a big expense for the team, so that keeps the cost down. They get 8 tyres for the weekend, so a quali in the 3 races. So they have to think about when they're going to use new tyres. The new tyres especially take a little bit longer to come in than the used tyres. The used tyres, you can switch them on in about a lap or so you'll be almost towards optimum by the time they start the race after their warm-up laps. A new tyre maybe takes a couple of extra laps, so you might be struggling, if you're on a brand new tyre, the first few laps around here, maybe the start, the first couple of laps, you'll lack a little bit of extra confidence, but then obviously as soon as that tyre's in, you've got then probably for a full set, you're over a second worth of lap time. For 2 tyres, you're looking at 5-6 tenths maybe, so it's a lot of time that you can obviously hopefully use to get close to that car in front and then make that pass.
Okay, we're going to walk and talk towards the front of the grid because I think they're about to get going. We'll take a slow walk. I've got a question for you, actually. I've noticed, when they push these cars from the garages here, and we talk about tyres, a lot of them have gravel that's obviously stuck into the tyres. The tyres are hot when they come out, and they don't take the gravel out. Is there an advantage to having that there for some kind of grip on the track?
No advantage with the gravel. As soon as basically around the paddock and the Parc Fermé area, there's a lot more gravel on the ground. You can see it. It's a normal racetrack sort of thing. But then as soon as you get on the circuit is smooth, it's clean. As soon as you do one burnout or you go around one corner, all of that will be gone and the tyres will start heating, so it makes very little difference, so that's why they don't worry about it so much.
Okay, that's I thought it was some kind of huge advantage there that I didn't know about, but there we go. Also, it's worth mentioning, by the way, Mikko Grundvig, who's starting on pole position. We've seen a lot of drivers driving for charities. He is driving in partnership with Kids Aid as well, a great kids charity. As part of his sponsorship team there, he's raising money for them, so that's good to see Mikko Grundvig there. Well, the cars are pretty much ready to go, so I think Piers, thank you very much. Piers is going to run, literally, as you can see now. Well, he's not quite running. He's going to go to the commentary box because he's alongside Lewis McGlade for our commentary today. Nice to have the experience of a current driver. As he mentioned, I believe that, he's getting back into the car after the pandemic maybe affected things with sponsors, which a lot of drivers have been telling me they've seen problems with, because obviously the pandemic affected a lot of people in a lot of different ways, and financially, when you haven't got the backing, it means you can't race. So if your sponsors are feeling the hit, you're feeling the hit as the driver. So I feel that Piers is ready and raring to go. So if there's any team teams out there watching this coverage thinking, you know what, we need another driver, I think Piers Pryor is a probably good shout for you. And he won here at Oulton Park already. He doesn't mention it many times. I'm being told in my ear, we want to keep him on commentary. But, you know, I think he'd prefer to, sorry to the people behind the scenes, I think he would prefer to be on the track, not on commentary. But anyway, he is on commentary right now. I will hand over to Piers Pryor. But first, this is your race commentator, Lewis McGlade.
Cheers, John, and we'll head to Crazy Town. It is reverse grid time for the GB3 Championship, the first weekend of the season where we're going to see this reverse grid, and honestly, this is madness. For anyone who's watched the GB4 Championship or even GB3 in the past, you'll kind of understand the rough basics as how this reverse grid works. Essentially, it goes back to the qualifying times, the fastest qualifying times that we had on Saturday morning. We'll take a reverse grid from those, and that will essentially give us our grid order as long as they qualified within 103%. Now, Luke Browning's time in qualifying meant that the 103% rule put the time at a 1 minute 31.597. Now, I am waffling on here a little bit with lots of numbers and such. Basically, what that means is that we have a 19-car reverse grid. It is going to be absolutely madness, and that is why we love the GB3 Championship. This is the kind of race where you're sat there thinking, I have no idea who's going to win. You can see there as well quite a few drivers departing the pit lane with fresh tyres as well. We did bring up the point that the way it works in the GB3 Championship this year is they have essentially 8 tyres, 2 full sets of tyres to take them through the weekend. That's qualifying and the 3 races. And in the second race, Segura Voisin, Alex Connor and Bryce Aaron all took 2 fresh tyres, which would have been on the left side. Now, basically everyone else that isn't on that list, the other 17 drivers, they will take 4 fresh sets of tyres, and those will take their extra 2. You were joining me in the commentary box. How was that run?
Excellent. That was great. Just a nice little limber up before the race. Honestly, you know, what can you say? Commentator, middle distance runner, racing driver. Multi-talented I am. It's
not a short distance from there. Literally the other end of the pit lane and all the way around the back end. Good effort.
Someone will be able to time that.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, are you looking for a fast for another PB?
Well, I'm training. Get back on the circuit.
Oh dear. Yeah, but then you have to leave me in the commentary box. So, you know, there is that. I'd love to see you back out on the racetrack, of course. Obviously, we're going to see them roll around onto the grid. Then we'll do the formation up and we'll show you what's happening with the grid order. But this is madness. This is the kind of point where, you know, normally we might talk about who's going to win this race and stuff. I wouldn't even know where to begin with this race. There's so many great contenders.
Give it a go, though. Go on. What do you reckon? Let's have a look at the entry list or the starting grid now. Let's have a bit of a
who am I feeling
speculation
on this? I mean, I think there's a few people listening in that would be disappointed if I didn't say Tommy Smith. But well, I don't know.
I heard it. The goat?
The goat, yeah, they
Where's
love.
This come from?
I no idea.
I have no idea where this has come from.
Well, apparently everyone likes to call him the goat. He's apparently alright with it, so it's all good.
Yeah, well, I thought
it's just a light teasing. It's fine.
I thought Lewis Hamilton was the GOAT, but, you know, maybe Tommy's on his way to get him.
Oh, you're going to get into some contentious topic with some Red Bull drivers and fans in a moment. We're going to get into deep trouble. I don't know. For me, I'm kind of leaning the way of the likes of Zach Taylor, who had a really good start earlier on. He finished 7th in the first race the weekend after a great start. He's going to roll off from 6th place. I think he might be a good shot for Fortec.
I'm actually going to go with my gut's telling me that Mikkel Grundvig, if he gets run turn 1 in first place as a good start, I think he could be in the pound seat here. Although I did tip, who did I tip? Was it Tom Mills for the win in the previous one? Then didn't even make it to the formation lap.
He destroyed his entire weekend.
Yeah.
No, it's not that bad. It's fine. It is what it is. You kind of have to take those and roll them and learn from the next round. It's so hard, like I said, to get off the grid. But we can see them rolling off, getting those practice starts going. We'll keep our fingers crossed that everyone does actually get moving on the grid as they'll start their formation lap for the race. You can see here the front row of the grid, Mikkel Grundvig with Tommy Smith, the return of the GOAT to the front row of the grid in the Douglas Motorsports, the number 16. Then on row 2, Nick Jilkes with David Morales in the Arden Motorsports car. Those would be pretty hard to pick apart. Of course, red and white, fantastic stuff. You can see the rolling through shot there. Kean Shields over the High-Tech Grand Prix. Of course, High-Tech Grand Prix taken both race victories in Luke Browning's form book with the Fortec Motorsports car of Zach Taylor, my potential pick for the race victory based on his pace from the earlier proceedings of the weekend. weekend. Brandon Oxley back onto the racetrack after the retirement in race 2 alongside Marcus Flack. Hopefully Oxley can get through the race this time without being sent off down into the Shell Oils hairpin. Max Esterson, who had a great race, finished in 11th place in race number 3. See if he can work his way up the order and maybe secure himself the first top 10 of the season for him. Elite Motorsports had 3 cars inside that top 10, and James Headley starts from the final position inside it. Behind that is John Bennett, who's had some pretty good starts to his open wheel campaign this season with 2 top 5 finishes, with Javier Segura down in that 12th spot for, it said Elite Motorsport there, but obviously it's a Carlin car. Mackenzie Cresswell and then Tom Leben for Elite Motorsports rolls off from 14th place, with Callum Voisin in the Carlin car, and then the high-tech Grand Prix of Matthew Rees starts from 16th place. Roberto Farias had 2 podiums this weekend. He'll start from 17th place. He'll have a bit of a hard effort to work his way back up the order for that one. Joel Granforce took his first podium in the previous race, and then we get to 19th spot, where you'll see one small name of Mr. Luke Browning, your championship leader and 2-time race winner in dominant fashion. I don't think he'll be leading the first lap this afternoon here. Alex Connor alongside on row number 10. Behind that in the final spot on the grid, of course, is Bryce Aaron. It is a fantastic field.
What a packed field. It's going to be a great race. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, in theory, this reverse grid puts the slower drivers at the front, obviously within 103%, and then the faster drivers at the rear. So in theory, we might have a bit of a closer race, some bunching up, maybe some side-by-side action. Hopefully not too many incidents, but it could make for some entertaining watching. You can see how hard the drivers are working on the screen to get the temperature in those tyres, because that's so important for the first couple of laps. Again, even around here, you'll struggle to overheat the tyres in these sort of coolish conditions. We're looking at about, I think it says 13 degrees air temperature, 25 degrees track temperature, so a nice day for racing, but you're not going to overheat the tyres today, so getting those tyres up to temperature is vitally important. But also, again, as I mentioned earlier, not just the surface, the whole carcass. So you'll see the tyres, the drivers sometimes in a little lock-up because they're trying to get that energy into the brakes as well as the tyres themselves by, as you can see, Mikael Grundvig using big slides there.
Does much heat go into the tyre? If you don't heat the brakes up, does much heat then go out into the tyre, or not really too much?
Yes, you want to be heating the tyre from the outside from the track and also from the inside from the brakes. If you're just using the tyres sliding on the surface, you end up heating the surface of that rubber compound, but then the actual carcass, that meat of the tyre on the inside and the sidewalls, doesn't get quite hot enough, which then can often lead to that graining issue we'll have maybe later in the year when we see maybe at Silverstone is a classic one for that. But the brakes definitely radiate heat the rim, which then heats the tyre, and also just keeps that heat when you're sitting on the grid. If your brakes are hot, your rims are obviously still heating your tyres while you're sat still, whereas if it's just the surface of the tyre, obviously that all goes away quite quickly.
Wow, deep breaths as 21 cars will line themselves up. This really does give me goosebumps looking at this. It's fantastic to have the GB3 Championship back, and of course on the Easter weekend. Weird to go racing on a Monday, but it's becoming part of tradition. We absolutely love it. Roberto Faria into position in 18th spot onto the grid. Our focus will return to the front with Grundvig alongside Tommy Smith on that front row. Nick Jilkes directly behind in 3rd position as we'll get ourselves underway in the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. We're underway in the 3rd final race here at Oulton Park. Great launch there from Grundvig. Tommy Smith's going to hang on to 2nd place, but look at Bryce Kean Shields who's attacking, potential to try and get on the podium. He didn't manage to find his way through. Looking on the inside as we're seeing a couple of the Elite Motorsports cars running wide. Brilliant start there though, as you were saying, from Grundvig. Absolutely smashed it.
Absolutely brilliant start, hooked it up, lovely clutch control, fired away, and he's got himself a Luke Browning-like gap at the front here. It's amazing. And as I said, if you get away at the front, that's obviously half the work done.
Yeah, and honestly, as we look backwards, they're all side by side because, of course, they are the run from Old Hall and then out to this way. They're always going to be a little bit tight. David Morales there with a bit of a lock up into Shell Oils as they're side by side between the two Douglas Motorsports cars. Oh, and there's one of them off the road. That one is the number 11 of Marcus Flack, who might have received a little bit of contact from his teammate Max Esterson. Not necessarily sure if there was contact. We saw that between Carlin the other day.
Again, a very, very similar instance to the race 1 with the 2 Carlin cars. I don't think any contact this time. I think it was just being squeezed wide. Maybe could have relinquished the corner a little earlier, but we can see there was one of the CDR cars going side by side down the straight there, 2 wheels on the grass, but not managing to take that place, unfortunately.
Yeah, Brandon Oxley, a fresh floor, and thinks, why don't break it in a little bit by just trying to drive it over some of the grass. The top 2 have built up a decent gap to Jilkes, who sat there in the 3rd spot, so they're starting to pull away. There is the Douglas Motorsports car, the number 42. You can see in the background, defensive line there as he's trying to hold off Segura. Of course, you've got the 2 Elite Motorsports cars as well. It's John Bennett ahead of James Headley, with Callum Voisin directly behind for Carlin with the red highlights as we complete the first first lap of racing. It's Grundtvig, Smith, Jilkes, Morales, Taylor across the line. Your top 5 with Oxley, Shields, Esterson, Segura and Cresswell rounding out the top 10, going up 3 positions. Not bad.
Exactly. It seems like that Smith actually is putting some pressure on Grundtvig for the lead there. And I think the gap was up to a second about the middle of the lap, and then that second half of the lap, Smith really closed that gap to Grundtvig, and that could be there could be some pressure being applied there in very shortly.
Well, the tight battle as well behind, all of them looking for the final spot on the podium. Zach Taylor trying to find his way past. He's in the 5th spot at the moment. Oh, a little bit wide there was one of the Elite Motorsports cars. I'm not sure which one that was, but might have been James Headley, who was obviously trying to attack his teammate John Bennett. We're seeing teammates getting quite close to there.
Exactly. Obviously, the teammates are all very close. We can see that there's some cars working side by side there, nearly looking for moves. Obviously, we know that corner is one of the main overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, it was Voisin in the background who was maybe eyeing up a move. We're not seeing any potential overtakes here as our focus on Brandon Oxley. Things, obviously, first lap, things are going crazy. Now things calm down. We're on the 2nd lap of this race. I think we're actually falling back potentially to time. Well, I actually might just be wrong. I was looking at the wrong screen. We're still doing this. We're now on lap 2. We're okay now. As Brandon Oxley was trying to find his way down the inside.
Yeah, it looks like they're obviously getting closer and closer. As everyone settles into their pace now, they'll find their feet and maybe try and put pressure on. I think you've seen something there with the times. Yeah,
no, I thought it was Zach Taylor running a little bit sideways off of the final corner, but he's okay.
Yeah, as you can see, the field is nose to tail. There's not much gap between any of the drivers, and that's what this reverse grid race does. It's just one by one by one by one. And obviously, as soon as someone makes a mistake, that'll back them up. But then, as we saw in the GB4 race earlier, you back up one car, that then ends up as a 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 car train.
Did you deal with pressure all the way through the race when you won here in a couple of years ago?
Yes, I did. I was pushed pretty hard by Kush. I don't think he was ever more than about 6 or 7 tenths behind me. But I managed to keep my nose clean, keep myself off the grass. Although we can see that there's been pressure applied, and that's the thing. If there's a car behind you, it really is difficult to just concentrate ahead, which is what you exactly need to do.
It's one of the bits of advice that I got obviously from the sim racing world. It's not the same level as motorsport, as there is a little bit too much curve from Zach Taylor, and he's sideways off the corner, and Brandon Oxley's going for it. He might well enter the grass for the 2nd time this race on the run down to Hislops, and the 68 CDR car around the outside, still not able to do it. Well covered off from Zach Taylor. That was just about enough room, and look at this from Kean Shields, straight down the inside, not able to make it stick, and now Max Esterson's a part of the battle. This is madness.
Exactly what I was talking about. As soon as one person makes a mistake and it gets backed up, you've got 5 or 6 cars nose to tail. Anyone could make a place here, but also you're so close through there. All it takes is a little nudge and your front wings off, and that's race over. So they're all being very careful. We can see Voisin now lining up. Yeah. Is he going to try to make a move?
I think he's more defending from Leben in the Elite Motorsports car. Obviously, the Elite Motorsports car is typically black, yellow and white. That one's black, yellow and sort of more of a pinky purple. Does look quite fetching there in the background and shot. Our focus here on the number 42, the blue car, Douglas Motorsports, Max Esterson, who's got Segura behind in what I think is my favourite, Carlin. I love the yellow highlights on that one. It really stands out.
It's a successful colour as well, obviously, yes. With Caelan Frederick winning in those colours in 2020. And what colour did Zach Sullivan run last year? I can't remember. I think he was the white, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was the white. I don't think he was in the green. I would have been more of a fan if he was in the green.
Yeah, but I do. It does look really good with that fluo yellow or green, depending on what sort of stance you take on that, and then the blue. It works really well together. Some great looking cars out there as well. I really do like the Douglas cars. They're a lovely colour.
It's a nice blue. Yeah, it stands out. Again, to be fair, all of the liveries on the grid. The only ones where this is it. We're going to start getting onto liveries now in a second. It's the CDR and the JHR cars. Sorry, not CDR. It's High-Tech and the JHR. Too similar. Look at this though. Speaking of CDR, the look for the down the inside from Brandon Oxley. He's aggressive right now.
He's trying to make this move, and he's had a few goes here. Had a few goes trying to get past Zach Taylor, sorry, and he's obviously putting the pressure on. Zach Taylor's doing a great job so far of keeping him at bay. Only just a couple of times, remember, nearly got past there. But all it does is he tried to make a move, and now he's lost himself some time. Is now falling into the clutches of Kean Shields.
Yeah, this kind of battle. I was going to say what position it's for, but realistically, it's all a part of that train up to Zach Taylor in 5th spot as they all run their way through. You can see there John Bennett ahead of his teammate 11th and 12th between those two Elite Motorsports cars. Our focus on Esterson, who's in that 8th position right now as they run their way down the start-finish straight once more down into Oulton. Grundtvig, our race leader, sets the fastest lap of the race, and on that lap, he pulled out. I don't know what happened to Tommy Smith, but he had an issue. Took him 2.1 seconds slower over the previous lap. He was keeping up with Grundtvig there, but that is now pressure off, and I think you're absolutely right about that early on.
I think that must be a mistake there from Smith, because he's dropped 2 seconds in one lap, which is more than you'd expect, because I don't believe... Yeah, so Grundtvig did the fast lap of the race, fair play, at 30.7, which is still about a second and a bit off what Browning was managing to do earlier on. So not the fastest pace we've seen, but there must have been a mistake. I wonder if we've got a replay of that. If not, it'll be interesting to hear from him after the race. Yeah,
and from that, it might well be those are the kind of moments that cost you a podium. He was in such a strong position there in second spot and keeping up with Grundtvig, trying to attack for the race leaders. Oxley looks out again, Esterson looks out again in the blue car, but Smith has now dropped in to the clutches of Nick Jilkes and David Morales in third and fourth spot, so I'm sure we're going to see a battle for second position. But those three, Smith, Jilkes and Morales, are far enough ahead, about 2.3 seconds ahead of Zach Taylor, race leader. We've seen this before. This is a Luke Browning-esque performance right now.
He's pulling away. He's, again, the lap times for consistency, out the front, no pressure now. That's all you need to do, and that is obviously easier. No, that's Luke Browning.
Speaking of Luke Browning, what has happened to him? Damage on the front wing as well.
And both front suspensions as well. They must have been either collected a driver or the tyres or both there.
Oh, it's a good job he had a big championship lead, isn't it?
That's exactly what he would have wanted to avoid, because it's shown the last 2, 3, 4 years that consistency is what is needed to win the championship. When we watched, I think it was, who won the championship in 2019? It was, who raced in Formula 3 now? I can see his face. His name, he's a Carlin driver. Anyway, he won the championship, actually not winning the most races because it was consistency that led him through. Caelan Frederick won the championship, won a lot of races, but nearly got taken to the last race by Kushmaini. Clement Novalak, that was it. And then obviously last year, Zach O'Sullivan was, amazingly consistent and won lots of races. So that's what you need to win a championship. And obviously, these drivers earlier on in their career, they might be lacking that consistency. It's all good having the pace and the speed, but you need to have that consistency. We don't know who's at fault yet. We haven't seen the incident. Oh, this could be it. Here we go, side by side. Browning at the front there, alongside is that Leben?
It is Leben.
Just a clash of wheels. That's really unfortunate for both of them there. It looked like a bit of a racing incident. Leben was defending on the inside and Browning trying to go on the outside. Leben then obviously looking to the apex of the corner and then just drifting back, and then a clash of wheels has caused Browning to end his race there. That's just the risk you take when you're going side by side into a braking zone like that.
Do you think Leben squeezed a little bit too much there, or is just kind of the expected?
I think it is probably, if I was to apportion blame, I think it is Leben's fault there, but it's so easily done because you're looking one way, knowing you're with the car on the other side. There's no way you can look in 2 or 3 places at once. So it's a real shame. I think they'll probably end up going down to racing incident, but it's not Browning's fault, that's for sure.
Yeah, like I say, he was just there and keeping far over to the left-hand side. Fantastic weekend for Luke Browning, but unfortunately it doesn't continue in the third race. He is most certainly out. The yellow flags are out, removing the overtaking opportunity down into his lops as well. And whilst that, his main championship rival, the person that finished in second in both those races, is presently running around now in 14th spot. There is Luke Browning. He'll be pretty angry. Yeah, especially when Granfus is setting fastest laps of the race as well. He'd like to be out there and hopefully pass Leben, setting some good lap times and making progress to the field, but unfortunately that contact has taken him out of the race. Be interesting to see if Leben's had any damage from that. Generally front to rear does come off better, so obviously that was the rear wheel of Leben's car and the front wheel of Browning's car, so he looks like he's still circulating, he's still got some good speed, but he went through the chicane as we saw earlier on, and he's obviously going to carry on and try and do as well as he can, but maybe that car's a little bit hobbled. Yeah, a bit of a shame, but either way, they've still got a couple more bullets in the gun, so to speak, in the form of the likes of Kean Shields and Bryce Aaron. Bryce Aaron's, although he's down in 19th spot, so really it is just Kean Shields up in that 7th position in the grey, more sort of silver high-tech car that's trying to attack the Chris Dittman racing car that's our focus here, Brandon Oxley. So, a tight little battle, but when your team is out, I'm sure he can see the car when he's driving down there. You kind of taking a look. Do you kind of feel there's a bit more pressure on the
it's
team?
a move there from Brandon Oxley. We said he's been looking aggressive. That's a great move, sending it up late up the inside. That's a textbook block pass. Excellent job.
How do you, that is just crazy how late he was. He was so far back, he still got to defend a little bit from Zach Taylor. We'll take another look at that, I'm sure, again at the moment. That was sensational, the move, just so bold down the inside, such good car control on the brakes. It's not done yet as Zach Taylor's close coming down into Cascades, but that position is now sorted. excellent brakes.
That was excellent braking manoeuvre, and we can see now side by side we've got Esterson going up the inside of Shields, but no, covered it off. But no, genuinely a really, really good braking manoeuvre. The braking zones here really are not that long. These cars have got so much grip that you've got not much space to slow the car down in. So to jink out of the slipstream, send it up the inside, braking a nice straight line, that's textbook. Great move.
It's kind of one of those ones where you can't half-heartedly commit. You can't look and sort of leave it down the inside. You either don't go for it or you go for it. You absolutely send it.
Completely agree. You need to fully commit and try and get at least all the way alongside by the time you get to the turning point. Otherwise, that car on the inside, often if you're in the blind spot, they don't know where you are, how far along you are. Whereas at least if you're that far along down the inside and that driver on the outside can see your nose, then that's pretty much the place done.
Spot if there were still yellow flags out there. I kind of assume there would be, considering that there is a car stationary, so it does remove the Hislop chicane as a real overtaking opportunity, which kind of removes it now. Yes, you can do Shell Oils, fair enough. We don't really see moves into Britain's, so it kind of leaves it to being that final corner at Lodge. That's your real major overtaking opportunity.
It is, and even if you're not overtaking onto the inside, you're making your driver ahead to fend so that you can try and get the cutbacks. You can go side by side as we're showing here up to the first corner, because again, if you can get a run up the first corner, it's an overtaking opportunity as well, but you can't quite dive as late as you can at the last corner.
Yeah, this is the battle for third position, the 64 at the front of our screen. That is a hill speed. That is Nick Jilkes. Obviously, sister went off a little bit earlier in the GB4 race, but has had a decent weekend now. Going over to the left-hand side and the run down Lakeside towards Island Bend. David Morales trying to attack in the yard, and the red and white car around the outside. Oh my goodness me, they were so close to going off. Here is an overtaking opportunity. Morales down the inside, locks up just a little bit. Kick of oversteer off the corner. Morales grabs the podium, and Nick Jilkes down to fourth. Superb.
That is a very, very brave move there for Morales, trying to keep his footing round the outside. He was so close to the grass. You touched that grass, you are off, race over. Kept his footing. Fair play to Nick Jilkes as well, because he actually managed to give him space into the Shell Oils help, and he could have closed the door, which could have ended an incident, as we saw earlier on. But no, excellent move. Again, we've seen some really good moves in this race.
It's been, again, exactly what we kind of expect from a GB3 reverse grid. There's not too long left to go. 5 laps once we've completed this one. Grundtvig out way by himself, leading to the tune of 4.2 seconds. And Tommy Smith directly behind. Jilkes, then Morales, then Oxley as well. Oh, look at that from Keaton Shields in the background, way over that curve on the Exeter Druids.
Wheel on the grass that you do not want to be dropping a wheel there. There's no run off there. It literally is curb, then grass, and the speed you go through there, you touch that grass at the wrong angle, you're spit off either left, right, hard into the barrier. So he's got away with that one. He's obviously looked pretty racy as well. He was right up with Brandon Oxley, but Oxley's he's cleared Taylor now, and he's motoring forwards towards is that Jilkes?
Yes.
He's made up loads of ground there. Oxley set his personal best lap 30.8, which is only about a tenth and a half off the fastest lap of the race, which was set by Grundtvig.
And
Granfers. Sorry, my mistake. Granfers setting fast lap times at the back, but Grundtvig did a 6, whereas Oxley managed to set a 30.8 on that last lap.
I've got to say though, it was also a purple first sector from Oxley as well on the previous lap. So clearly finding a lot of speed, and now in clean air. I'd say a podium still might be a little bit of a stretch too far, but there's that fourth place. Surely you're going to be able to attack for that later on.
Yeah, he's going to be going as hard as he can for that podium position. He'll at least be trying to get Jilkes next person. Obviously, he's got a bit of a pace advantage over Jilkes at last lap. Jilkes 33.3 must have made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the pass of Morales and such, losing out a little bit of speed.
Yes.
So there is that as well. I don't think it would have cost him that much time, but still, either way. Grundtvig leading the way. Tommy Smith out by himself, so that second place still seems to be on. Then it's David Morales there in the red and white Arden car. 64, that one is Nick Jilkes with the 68 closing in from the Chris Dittman racing car. That one is Brandon Oxley. This is the focus of our attention, really. And then you've got the train behind. Zach Taylor, Kean Shields, Max Esterson, Javier Segura, Cresswell as well. It is crazy back there in one big train. Because it's such a big train, it's kind of hard to pass because you just can't really make anything stick without losing a position.
Have we lost Grundtvig, or is that just a timing error?
I think it's just a timing
error.
I do believe it is just timing.
About that. It looks like Grundtvig's dropped down the order. We'll confirm with that in a moment, but I'm looking forward to seeing if Brandon Oxley can catch up with Nick Jilkes here, because I think he's been looking racy. Oh yeah, Grundtvig's been re-established at the front, so there must must be a transponder error there somewhere. But no, he's been looking racy. He's not been holding back on his moves. He's been looking feisty. Whether he decides, you know what, I've made enough place in this race, that's, you know, you get bonus points as the format. Obviously, a bonus point for every position you make past your grid position, plus points, slightly reduced points for finishing positions in this third and final reverse grid race. He might think, you know what, I've made a good few places, I've won a good place, or he could do the other thing, which is just completely send it and see if he can get one final place to get on the podium. To be fair, the podium's if it's podium's right there.
Oh no! And there's contact, and there's Mackenzie Cresswell pushed off. We've seen that before.
That's almost a complete almost a complete mirror replay of the Browning and Lebanon incident, wasn't it? You can see that the driver on the inside defends, and then the driver on the outside thinks, right, I can go on the outside here on the left-hand side and then get the cut back. But no, the driver on the inside just creeps back in the braking zone, which is so easily done. Again, you're looking the opposite direction. So again, I would say that the driver on the inside is at fault there, but it's one of those things where it's just you're putting yourself at risk on the outside of that happening.
It was Javier Segura that he made contact with, so another car that Segura's made contact with this weekend. I don't think that'll be too major on his repertoire, so that'll be absolutely fine. I think Cresswell drops back 4 positions. Yeah, let's see it again. Oh, bit of a moment there. That one's from Marcus Flack. So clearly, Ty's struggling maybe a little bit, or is it just overdoing it himself?
I think that was just a bit greedy on the throttle. There's a bump there, and if you hit that bump wrong, then that can. Here we go, the replay. As you can see, yeah, this just squeezed a bit too much. Technically, I'll be interested to see what the stewards come up with that, whether they think it's a racing incident or whether that is Segura's fault. I'd say Segura's probably at fault because, sorry, who was on the outside? My brain's gone blank.
Cresswell.
Cresswell, of course. Cresswell is entitled to place his car there. If there's space, he's entitled to place his car there, and there's no need for him to get out of the way. So that is, you know, I'd say it's pretty harsh, and you're going to get penalised for that, but you do take that risk. Maybe just don't put your wheel quite that far up. So it's maybe something to be learned from both those drivers there.
Yeah, like you say, I mean, if you're only sort of up to the rear wheel going around the outside, you're never really going to make a move. And I know that's not an excuse to be like, well, don't try it then. Well, of course, you know, you're a race driver, you're going to try it. But there is sort of like the using your brain as to when to take risk and when not to. And this early in a championship, you know, maybe you can do it. Later on, I think we'll see some very, very different heads on their shoulders when we come to the final round at Donington Park in quite a few months' time. Yeah,
it's a bit different as well because, again, a lot of these drivers, you know, including Kean Shields, we can see here, they've come straight from karting. Yes. And the racecraft and karting is very different to this of what it is in cars. I found that. It took me a while to get used to it. Felt a bit, you know, duck out of water for a bit. You do get used to it, and I'm sure that they will. Again, maybe, I don't know what actually Brandon Oxley's done before this, but, you know, that sort of thing. And Segura as well, you're trying to figure out that these cars are bigger. You've got a lot bigger blind spots. There's a lot more energy as well. You know, a small touch in the car, it doesn't do much. You've got a lot of grip and not much weight. When these, as we've seen with both Browning and now, was it Cresswell, not actually, that small amount of contact can really put the car off a long way.
Yeah, like you say, it's learning something completely different. Even if you're moving from a smaller formula, even if it was from next year, which I'm sure we'll see plenty of, from GB4 into GB3, you're still talking of a much larger car in percentage terms.
Yeah, exactly, and also all that downforce, all that speed, you're braking harder. There's a lot more going on, a lot faster.
More power.
But this is why also, you know, we need feeder series like this so that you can gradually build on that. You throw any of these drivers who are first, second year in Formula 1, they'd be way out of their depth, but you need that building year, maybe doing sort of something like Formula 4, 1600, or you go GB4, then you go GB3, and then you look further afield, you know, to bigger, faster cars. That ladder is really, really essential so that you can get these skills and these learnings early on in your career, so then you can take it forward and make mistakes in something that isn't so expensive, isn't so dangerous.
Final lap of the race then going to begin, and once again in the GB3 Championship we are seeing domination being dished out. 14th lap started from the number 43 Fortec machine of Grundtvig. He's just running away right now, so in control. Tommy Smith had a sniff earlier on, but he's got to focus backwards on the driver that has not only closed in on him, but also has set the fastest lap of the race, as David Morales in the Arden Motorsports car. Tommy Smith under a fair amount of pressure, but still looks good for the podium.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good fast lap of the race again from not the previous lap, but the one before from Morales. He obviously showing some pace later on. I don't know whether he took new tyres. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I'm interested to see that the gap is stabilised between Oxley and Jilkes. That would have been interesting to see how that would come down. We've still got one more lap, so you never know what can happen. But again, dominating performance here from Mikael Grunwig. I said that if he got away at the start, I reckon he might have it, and he's shown that he's got the consistency. Again, nice consistent laps. His last few laps all within a few tenths and not making any mistakes.
I mean, right now, Roberto Ferrer, he's the one that's really gaining the most, because I think he might actually just about steal the championship lead, if I'm perfectly honest, based on where he's presently running. Of course, there'll be no points dished out to the High-Tech Grand Prix car of Luke Browning, because he's retired. So yeah, that's a big, big loss. Yeah, exactly, and that proves how important that consistency and making sure that you finish is. Again, Browning will probably feel pretty aggrieved because it probably wasn't his fault, but that's one of those things. It's racing. If you're putting yourself, trying to make those moves, you are putting yourself in the risk of having contact. As we can see, Mikael Grunwig coming over the line now to win the race. Dominant. Absolutely incredible. GB3 Championship, round number 3. Mikael Grunwig, Fortec Motorsports. He is your winner. Tommy Smith, though, coming across the line just to beat David Morales over for the final spot on the podium. Jilkes, Oxley, Taylor. We'll see the rest coming over the line. You've got the tight battle there between Max Esterson and Javier Segura, and so many close fights. We saw a close one between Ferrer and Voisin as well. 0.2 of a second separating those. We do love a good close finish in GB3 and GB4, don't we? I think every race we've had something separated by about 10. Exactly. I mean, look at if you ignore Grunwig, who's got a 5-second lead, then there's less than 10 seconds between the next 9 drivers. So that's less than a second a driver. You know, it shows how close it is. And again, this grid, the reverse grid format does bring out some great racing, as we saw some tight racing and also some opportunities for people to make some good passes, as we've seen. Again, those some great passes in that race. Yeah, we've had some brilliant racing all weekend, both in GB4 and in GB3. It's something really to remember as GB3 returns to our racing calendars, and we do love it. So Mikael Grunwig then taking the race victory in round number 3 of the GB3 Championship. Smith on the podium along with David Morales as well, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Nick Jilkes, 4th spot. Again, it's been a decent weekend for the Jilkes family. Unfortunately, race 1 and race 2 didn't go his way, but race 3 absolutely bob on. And Brandon Oxley, after that retirement from race 2, finishes in 5th. Then we've got Zach Taylor, Kean Shields, Max Esterson does get his first top 10 of the season, with Javier Segura and John Bennett inside the top 10 for the 3rd consecutive time. Had 2 top 5s in the first 2 races, and for his first season in open wheel racing, that is pretty handy. Behind that, by the way, as we've just skipped over, Mackenzie Cresswell, James Headley, Callum Voisin and Ferrer 13th and 14th, with Joel Granfors, Tom Leben, Matthew Rees, Bryce Aaron, and then Alex Connor, and then of course Marcus Flack, with Luke Browning retiring from the race. Like I said, he needs to take this from a positive point mentally. Yes, there was a retirement. It's ending on a bit of a down note. Focus on the victories, though. Focus on the positives and move forward to Silverstone. Yeah, it shows how important qualifying is as well. You know, he's qualified on pole and he's won 2 races. So if he can just take it out into the next round, continue with the really good pace that he's been showing, do that into the next round, and then hopefully do the same, then he might set himself up. And then maybe just he'd learn from the fact that, you know, when you're working your way through the field, you're increasing your risk. So maybe just think about. I mean, look at the other drivers. People at the back, even though they've had the pace of the weekend, they haven't made that much progress. Obviously, Browning was the furthest off of those and was trying to push on, and maybe that he just didn't need to, which is obviously part of the learning that he needs to make. It's a different driver, different format than he's used to. I don't think he's ever done, or he's only done a couple of rounds in GB3. He hasn't done a full season, so interesting to see. But again, a great race from Grunwig. Interesting to see as well, no British drivers on the podium for this race. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, obviously, just because it's GB3 doesn't mean that it's locked to just being a junior formula for the UK. We see plenty of big names that have always come over into this championship to compete and to try and win, to move their way forward. And Mikael Grunwig could potentially be one of those that we focus on. And guess what? John Jackson's catching up with him.
I am indeed, yes. Mikael Grunwig, the first Danish winner of the season. Well, you're the only Dane on the grid, but you know, it's good. You must be pretty happy with that, because I don't think things in the first 3 rounds have maybe gone how you wanted them to go.
No, I mean, we had a very tough start to this year. I mean, this race weekend. So, I mean, to finish it like this is just incredible. When we hold on the grid at the P1, I didn't really thought that. I was thinking that would be possible, because we have really fight with a lot, but when everything goes as planned, it's just, I don't know what to say. I'm so happy, overwhelming.
Okay, no, it's good. It's good. So you got a good start and you managed to just hold on for the whole race, and you kept that pace up.
yeah, I mean, I just kept my head down and just focused on myself, you know. Keep looking forward and just focus on my lines. And then suddenly, I think after 7-8 laps or something, I looked in the mirror, couldn't see a car, and I was like, okay, now I have it.
So, that's when you know you're doing okay, and obviously you'll be hoping that this is a springboard into Silverstone, and you can move from there and you can move up that leaderboard.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Mika, we'll let you go and celebrate on the grid in just a second. We'll find Tommy Smith, who is doing an interview, but I'm going to have to interrupt, I'm afraid. Tommy, I'm going to have to grab you if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, second place.
Yes.
Where you want to be, I imagine.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's been a really tough weekend. I had to work for that one as well. It's just off the pace, unfortunately. Yeah, but quite pleased with that. Good points, I guess. Damage limitation this weekend, but I can't thank all the boys enough. I mean, they work so hard. It's been a long week. We've been here for 7 days, so yeah, this is for all the boys, I guess, in the team. We'll keep working away and hopefully got better results to come.
Yeah, some positivity to end the weekend for Douglas Motorsport. Looking at the end there with David Morales coming, quite close to you. Did he ever challenge you, or did he have it? You had it covered.
Oh, I had it covered. It was close, but I knew I had a few more laps to go, so just had to bring it home. And the tyre started to overheat a little bit, the rear tyres, so it was sliding around a bit. But yeah, I mean, no, that was all covered.
All right, good. Well, Tommy, we'll let you go to the podium in just a second. Second place today. Congratulations, the first Australian we've seen on the podium so far. And David Morales, how's it going? Your third place. Nice to have a non-British podium we've discussed here. Yeah, so American on third.
Yeah, overall, really happy with that result, and also getting the fastest lap. But that pass around the outside at T3, wow, because coming up to that, I knew I had the pace and I had to pass him at some point, and I was inches away from the grass, but I ended up doing it, and I'm proud that I did. I'm here, so got P3, really happy.
It's nice to see some American on Canadian racing with Nick there, which was nice to see. And it's been a tricky weekend for your team, so it's nice to end on a positive note.
Yeah, definitely a lot of issues. For instance, like race 2, engine issues, shift issues, and throughout the weekend just trying to figure out the setup. But we're here now, and we ended it with a good result, happy weekend. So overall, really glad with the team and how we ended up.
Nice one, David. Well, we'll let you get to the podium now, because I think I'm keeping you a bit too long, but enjoy that fake champagne and the trophy you'll get there. And we'll see you on the podium again soon, I'm sure. We're going to walk and talk to the podium now. The cars are still there, as I mentioned before. They go off to scrutineering. So we can, maybe we'll walk with Jonathan Palmer. Let's see if Jonathan Palmer will walk with us. Jonathan, would you like to walk and talk on our live broadcast? Is that okay? We were just saying, we've seen Jonathan Palmer, obviously, the Chief Executive of MSP, is that your official title?
Yeah, that's it.
The man behind both championships, and we've seen today 4 exceptional races, and over the weekend 6 really quite scintillating races, and it just shows how competitive the teams are and the drivers are in these 2 different championships.
Yeah, I mean, this last race we've just seen, the reverse grid GB3 race, it was a great race, and what the reverse grid does is it gives an opportunity for the guys that are round about in the midfield normally, gives an opportunity for them to run at the front, and when they do that, it always impresses me how quickly they go, and I think it comes from a combination of confidence. I mean, they're out in the front. Like Mikel there, and it gives him confidence being at the front, but also they are in clean air. And when you're back in the midfield of a pack, all the turbulence from the cars in front does affect the downforce. And when you're out in front, you don't have that. You do get clean air, and you get the advantage of it. But of course, if you're not quick enough in qualifying, you never get the advantage of that too. So it's quite tricky. So having the reverse grid race does give the guys a chance to have that all-important clean air opportunity. Some make a better job of it than others, and boost their confidence. So it's really important too.
And we were just saying that obviously these championships are great springboards. So you have GB4, which is now a great sort of transitional from karting for those drivers that wanted to get into the wings and slicks driving, and obviously GB3 being a springboard to maybe worldwide competitions, FIA, things like that. But if you're a great driver, being at the back, you're going to learn so much more getting past cars and not having it all your own way.
Absolutely. One of the things that every driver has to do is accept the fact that fundamentally he's there not just to win and say I'm great and people to recognise it, but to learn how to win and be great. And that comes from working away. I mean, when I started racing, you're at the back of the field. Every driver, when he starts, generally is at the back of a field. And what really marks the people out that are going to be successful is those that can actually knuckle down, not get dispirited, recognise that other people have got more experience and chip away at it and work out where to find that time and then convert it to qualifying positions and ultimately race positions, championship wins. And for sure, there are going to be drivers in GB3 who are going to be in Formula 1.
Excellent. Well, look, we're going to hand over to the podium, but very quickly, Jonathan, before we let you go, driver of the weekend, one name?
Oh, I think you'd have to say Luke Browning. I mean, he's won 2 races. He's very, very quick. Got pushed off in that last race, but he was in a difficult position, being right at the front. He's at the in the race 2, he was at the back in race 3, and he got pushed off, and that was unfortunate. But I mean, no, you've got to say Luke Browning.
There we go, Luke Browning, and I imagine you would say in the GB4, Alex Walker had an exceptional weekend as well.
Absolutely right. No, Alex has also had a dominant weekend, and what's 2 wins, wasn't it, for Alex?
Well, 2 wins, 3 wins out of 5 now.
Yeah, no, he's doing really, really well in the elite car. And that's the other great thing about it. We've got different teams being at the front. Of course, Luke's running with High Tech and Elite for Alex Walker, and their Elite are in GB3 as well. And it's fun for the teams to be looking and seeing their drivers progress and develop and have good days. And of course, some are going to have bad days, but
all part of the learning process.
All part of the learning process.
Jonathan, I've got to leave you because I think we're holding up the podium. But Jonathan Palmer from MSP, thank you very much. I'll hand over to Lewis McGlade, who's going to talk you through the podium now.
Yeah, thanks for holding up the podium there. That was all right. Obviously lovely to hear. And to be fair, I do agree. Like Luke Browning and Alex Walker this weekend have both been fantastic. Issues, of course, there for Luke Browning in that race, but can't take anything away from the weekend and can't take anything away from the race. And what a deserving podium it is.
Yes, exactly. Those guys all earned their podium positions here. Yes, it's the reverse grid race, but they all have to drive to it. We've got Mikael Grundvig, obviously took that pole position, ran away with it. No one can take them away from him.
And we'll see the first driver onto the podium being David Morales. Of course, we didn't really speak too much about the Canadian-American rivalry between himself and Nick Jilkes. I don't think that played any major part in it, but it was a great little battle as well. And Morales coming out on top. There he is, rolling his way through for Arden Motorsport. Very, very well-deserved podium. Finishing just 0.3 of a second behind Tommy Smith as well. So he'll take 3rd spot. Tommy Smith, big fan base behind him that's been, to be honest, messaged me a fair amount online with huge support for the Douglas Motorsports driver. He lines up, finishes rather in 2nd position and takes that 2nd spot onto the podium. But our race winner for Vortec, Mikael Grundvig, and what a race win it was. Again, it was very Luke Browning-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's obviously the order of the weekend is go out from pole, get a nice start, get a nice gap, drive away from the field. And he obviously took notes on Luke Browning in the first 2 races and did it well in the 3rd race. Again, it must be a notable mention, as David Morales said, that move around the outside of the island corner into the shell hairpin. As he mentioned, right on the grass, flat out, side by side, high risk but high reward, and the podium he gets for that.
I don't know where I'd put like move of the weekend, because we've had a few good ones. We don't get too many overtakes around here, but when we do get them, they are very, very good. And that one from Morales is right up there. It's such a good one.
Brandon Oxley as well into that final corner in that race as well. That was a
control.
Yeah, late move, ducked out, nice and straight braking, very clean manoeuvre. That was also an excellent. So we've seen some really good moves again in GB4 as well. Some great moves there. Oh, side by side. Was at the start of the GB4 race 3 when there was 2x2x2 for about half a lap, which was amazing to see. So we've had some great racing this weekend. I've loved to be part of it. Maybe I'll be back at some point. Obviously, you've done a great job, and we'd love to watch the rest of the season.
We'll have a good bit of banter in future, I'm absolutely sure. Did you spray champagne when you won here, or did you want to keep your race overalls dry?
I think because it was the weekend, it was COVID effective. We actually got some spots of rain on the con box at the moment, so that was good timing that we didn't have that. But yeah.
Wow, well, head back down then to John, who's in the paddock somewhere.
Yeah, I am. Just trying to not get run over by this recovery truck here. This is bringing Luke Browning's car back in. Luke Browning, who obviously went off in that last race. Maybe if we come, I don't know, maybe we'll come slightly forward, further back here. Doesn't look like there's too much damage, thankfully. I'm sure they'll be keen to get that back in the garage and clean it up. A little bit tricky, a few dents and scrapes. Let's go and find some of the drivers then. I'm going to grab John Bennett. We heard about his golfing yesterday. You weren't very good at golfing, but you're happy with 10th place in that race?
Yeah, really happy. I think that was my debut weekend for single-seaters, and don't think it could have really gone any better. So top 5 first 2 races, and then 10th in the reverse grid, moving up a position from where I started. Yeah, absolutely delighted, to be honest.
Is there already some friendly rivalry between you and your teammates? I know there was out on the golf course, but what about here on the track?
Yeah, well, rivalry on the track and the golf course. We can just learn from each other all throughout the winter, to be honest. We've really helped push each other on, and on track it's no different. So, yeah, really loving every minute in the championship, and yeah, just amazing weekend, I think.
All right, well, we will catch up with you at Silverstone, and hopefully there's some good golf courses around Silverstone. John Bennett finishing 10th. Very well done, John. Thank you very much. Elite Motorsports, John Bennett there. We can see now, actually, very good shot here of the suspension that's bent on Luke Browning's car. We will try and grab a little word with him. I've just seen him come back into the garage. He is still the championship leader. Let me just see if he's around. And then will he talk to me? I don't know if he'll talk to me. We'll just keep watching this car for now. They're just going to put this back in the garage. He's just having a very serious looking chat. Just excuse me walking across here. Luke, can I grab a word?
Yeah.
We are live. What happened out there?
Unfortunately, yeah, Levin got a really bad exit out of the chicane. I had to go somewhere, so I went back to the left, and then he just squeezed me on the grass on the left. Unfortunately, you can come so far left until there's a car there. You know, I tried to back out of it at the last minute, and he just keeps on coming left. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. But
is that a racing incident, or do you think he's at fault there?
It's definitely not my fault. So yeah, it's it is what it is. Unfortunately, you can't change other people's actions, but you know that's racing and stuff happens.
But look, let's be positive. You've had a great weekend up until then. You are the championship leader after this first round of races going into Silverstone. So, you know, you're coming away, although you may feel a bit dejected right now, with positive vibes into Silverstone.
Yeah, exactly. Positives going into Silverstone. We've got the pace, we've got the car there. It's just, yeah, we didn't need stuff like that to happen, unfortunately. But, yeah, it is what it is.
We didn't. Look, we'll leave you to it. 2 race wins already this weekend. Luke Browning from High Tech. Thank you very much. Bad luck there, not finishing this 3rd race. I don't know if we can find any more drivers. There's possibly not any around at the moment, mainly because of the rain, actually. It turns out the racing drivers are allergic to rain. So let's have a look. I mean, we mentioned Silverstone there. That's coming up in 3 weekends' time. So you can obviously watch our live coverage. We will bring you streams as well. And you can buy tickets. So if you want to buy tickets, just search GB3 Championship or MSV. You'll find it there. I'll just have a quick look at the other races that are coming up as well, because there's loads going through into the rest of the year. We've got Donington Park on the 28th and the 29th of May. That's also a co-headliner there. Snetterton, back there. We were there with the GB4 cars. We're going there with both championships on the 25th and the 26th of June. Then the GB3 cars go to a track that I know a lot of the drivers here are really looking forward to driving, Spa in Belgium. That one there is the 23rd and 24th of July. The following weekend at Silverstone there again, so back-to-back races there. We go to Brands Hatch on the 10th and the 11th of September, and the season ends, and if we need to decide something, it will be decided at Donington Park on the 15th and the 16th of October. If you've missed any of this, you maybe just caught the end of this race, you can catch everything back on the GB3 or the GB4 websites. You can watch these live streams again whenever you fancy on demand, and we'll see you in 3 weeks' time where we'll be at Silverstone for more GB3 and GB4 action.